call offensive plays or who will play quarterback for Vegas after the team's bye. And NFL media says Falcons receiver Drake London is believed to have suffered a hip pointer.
It's time.
You know what time it is?
Game for Tuscaloosa's longest running sports show.
The biggest goal of our team,
especially in the first half,
we at Bama, we're trying to be the best. Always is to win a national championship.
Something cool to look back on.
We don't want to waste a failure.
You're inside the game.
John Mechie on the ground.
Appreciate your interest in the game.
On your home for Alabama sports.
Alabama wins.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota. And now, here's your award-winning host, Ryan Fowler.
Hey, and a big good afternoon to you. Welcome into the game. T-Town Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. We're going to dive into a lot of different things. It's LSU Alabama week. The week has finally arrived, and the pressure that's on this Alabama football team is one of the things that we will dive into. We're going to take your phone calls. We'll do that coming up in a couple of minutes. 205-342-9904. Got a big guest lineup for you. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. Drew DeArmond, 97.7 The Zone up at Huntsville 215. We'll talk with Tony Tsoukalas coming up at 3:30. Martin Houston at 4. Sandwiched in with some good moments of the weekend. You know, they can be good moments when you think about it. I mean, it was a good weekend for this Alabama football team to get a little bit of help. Hey, you want to take just a minute? We want to thank, hopefully Corey Miller's still out there listening. Chase, I want to thank Corey Miller's Gamecocks. I want to personally thank him. He was there in that atmosphere, the ruckus environment, and really knocked out Texas A&M. And now we need Texas A&M to maybe do a little damage, right? You've got the two blemishes, Notre Dame and now South Carolina. Alabama, you get help from a lot of different ways. Ohio State, I thought beating Penn State helps you, right? Clears you a pathway. Move them on out. SMU for beating Pitt. Maybe not as significant, but hey, get another blemish there. Take them. Come on. And now what you do is you pull for these teams that have got multiple losses. You now pull for them to do some damage. Texas Tech for beating Iowa State. Louisville for beating Clemson. And listen, I want to personally thank Vanderbilt for just continuing their winning ways. That's a resume booster, right? It is. That's another one of those. Not just from a rival standpoint, but hey, look at Vanderbilt. That now they are bowl eligible. I mean, let that sink in. Vanderbilt bowl eligible and taking down both. Oh, this is going to hurt, but I'll continue to say it. Beating Alabama and Auburn in the same year. I saw the numbers going back for a number of years. Back in, what was it, the 50s or 60s, the last time that has happened. So Vanderbilt able to take down the weak, mighty Crimson, or the weak Auburn Tigers and the mighty Crimson Tide. Let's start with Kalen DeBoer audio. I want to go to this here, and we'll dive into a lot of different things. We'll talk about it. We'll dive into it right here on the game. So, Chase, I know there's a little transition there, but if you guys can fire up the Kalen DeBoer audio, he gives you a couple of updates. And, we do a Blue Spring Living Water update, which is our injury report. And Kalen DeBoer wastes no time getting to it. Cole Adams is going to miss the remaining part of the season. Already had one injury with the elbow. Now he's got a lower extremity injury. But we're going to talk about the benefits that the bye week provided for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I thought Kalen DeBoer, today's press conference was very informative. We're going to play some audio as we travel throughout the afternoon, kind of mix in some things that he said and some ways that I thought that he said about the pressure of this Alabama football team. So let's start here with Kalen DeBoer's opening comments. This is the head football coach at the University of Alabama. Only the opening comments as he opened up his noon Monday press conference with a preview of Alabama and LSU.
Had a great bye week. Our guys get a chance to work on the things that we felt we needed to work on as a team, get a little healthier and in a good spot. Guys got back to work yesterday with a good practice, high energy, very intentional on what the job is that we're up against going into LSU here, and getting a head start on that, whether it be last week or yesterday. So we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, and got an exciting week, preparing for a good football team. So one update, just want to give, because I know I haven't had a chance to, just with the timing of everything, with when we've met Cole Adams with his injury, just an update there. He'll be out for the year. So we had to deal with that, and last week, and unfortunately, just because Cole's
Okay, that is Kalen DeBoer talking about Cole Adams, Blue Spring Living. Okay, let me know, guys, when we're back there, and then I'll wrap it up, and we'll get back to Drew DeArmond coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So we'll dive into that coming up as Cole Adams is going to be out. Cole Adams, Blue Spring Living Water. Give yourself a gift of better health this holiday season. Christmas, Thanksgiving, save 20% with a GIFT 2025 code. GIFT 2025, Blue Spring Living Water. Cole Adams was not a part, will not be a part of the remaining part as far as the season. He's got 2 injuries that he's dealing with, and that mega brace is there. That's one of the things that that's one of the things that we'll dive into coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Drew DeArmond, 97.7 The Zone, and we'll talk about it coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Drew DeArmond, 97.7. He'll break down college football. We'll talk with Tony Sikalas and a lot more. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
So take care of any problems you got with a damp crawl space or a crack in your foundation. They even do pest control and lawn care. Full service Alabama Professional Services at alabamaprofessional.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A partly sunny sky this afternoon. The high today 79. Tonight becoming mostly cloudy, the low 64. Tomorrow and Wednesday mostly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms both days. Highs between 77 and 80 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best breakdown of Alabama football in the state. The Game with Ryan Fowler. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Welcome you right back into the game. We're going to go to Drew DeArmond, 97.7 The Zone up at Huntsville. He's a guy that we love to depend on every Monday. We usually talk with him, not every Monday, but I think 95% of all the Mondays, we dive into a lot of different things with Drew DeArmond. We're going to go to him right here in just a couple of seconds. But I do remind you about the Blue Spring Living Water update. Cole Adams, and we'll talk to Drew about Cole Adams. He's not going to just be missed as a wide receiver, but also as a punt returner. But I must tell you, from a bulky elbow brace, I'm nervous out there because, if he's got to wear that brace to be able to support that elbow from preventing fumbles or whatever, from his elbow being overextended or just to provide there, it makes me nervous because I think about, wow, what a bulky brace. Now he's got a lower extremity injury, and that part of that injury is going to cost him or miss the remaining part of the season. But Blue Spring Living Water, but Alabama seems to be back on track from a healthy standpoint. Let's talk about it with Drew DeArmond, 97.7 The Zone up in Huntsville, Alabama. Drew DeArmond, how are you, my friend? Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
I'm good, Ryan. How are you, man?
I'm good. a bye week really comes in at a really beneficial time for Alabama. I'm kind of liking the 2 bye weeks for this Alabama football team and for college football. I like the 2 bye weeks and gives you a chance to get healthy a little bit.
Well, it does. Unfortunately, they lost Cole Adams, as you said. I mean, he's a guy that showed a lot of toughness coming back from the elbow injury to still be the punt returner. And, I thought he was still very effective. He's a tough kid. He's made several, catches to extend drives. He tends to be in the right place at the right time. So certainly it's a significant loss for Alabama. It seemed like it was when he went out, against South Carolina, that it might be, a situation that could be for the season, unfortunately. And it looks as though that's going to be the case. So it's tough to lose a guy like that, man. And they lost him pretty early in the game. So I hate to hear that, but certainly hopefully he'll be back healthy next year. He actually has. He's had injury situations all the way back to his senior year of high school, where he missed the majority of his senior season, and I'm not sure he was ever fully healthy last year. So I hate to hear that for him, but certainly they've still got guys like, of course, and then you mentioned kind of being nervous. That's the one thing with Jalen Mbakwe. He's got to be solid with the football. He has fumbled it a time or two. And then Ryan Williams. I mean, he has explosive ability. So luckily, Alabama is blessed with young men that I think have the talent to step in there. But you hate to lose somebody that was a selfless guy who was a really good special teams player and a really good receiver that would do a lot of the dirty work. But now, like I said, Emmanuel Henderson, Kendrick Law, guys like that, maybe even a Caleb Odom. He hasn't been a big part, of the offense so far, but maybe he could, grow into a bigger role. We'll see. But certainly it's going to give guys an opportunity to play. And this is the biggest game of the year for Alabama. I mean, right now, to me, if Alabama wins this, biggest win of the season, not just because of the playoff implications, but because I know they beat Georgia early, but this is significant in a coach's tenure because it would be the first SEC road win for Kalen DeBoer, and it would come in an environment that's very, very difficult. And both these teams are still in the playoff chase. I think Alabama has a stronger position right now with their schedule, but again, LSU is still right there, and it would put a big feather in their cap to beat Alabama, that's for sure.
Drew, let's talk about the weekend from an Alabama perspective. What game out there was to me that provided the most amount of help for this Alabama football team in your eyes? The way that you look at it, college football playoff rankings tomorrow evening. Probably most of us were not going to be watching that. You're probably going to be watching the election returns, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. We'll be posting about it on Tide109.com. But when you look at it, what game do you think helped Alabama as far as a loss the most?
As far as a team losing or just a team?
Well, I mean, a team getting beat in front of them that kind of cleared the path a little bit, because I thought Alabama got a lot of help this weekend.
Well, I think they did get a lot of help. I mean, certainly I think Texas A&M losing helped Alabama because I think they could drop a couple of more, and they don't play each other. And they right now had their only loss was to Notre Dame, who's in the thick of the college football playoff race. But I think with South Carolina pushing Alabama to the brink and then turning around and blowing out Texas A&M, I think that certainly helps Alabama, and it helps people understand why that was a close result against the Gamecocks. I think that the Gamecocks are a very talented football team. Now, I mean, they've got a trap game coming up because they've got to go to Vanderbilt and play the Commodores, and nobody likes playing Vandy right now with the way they play. But that's going to be, because they were able to get A&M on a trap game after they came back and beat LSU in the second half over in College Station. But then you see how quickly things can go turn south on the road. It's just a very difficult league this year. I'm not sure there's an elite team, but certainly there are a lot of really good teams. And I'm like you. I did think Alabama got a lot of help.
And when you look at these college football playoff rankings, I think Alabama's probably going to start right there in that top 10. I mean, I think they're at number 11 now. If they're not going to be in the top 10, they're going to be right outside the top 10. So the pathway's there. But Alabama needs to take care of LSU. I know it's early. It's hard to project what this committee will do in their initial rankings. But you almost feel like that Alabama's right there. I mean, if they go beat LSU, come back, beat Mercer, go on the road, beat Oklahoma, and then beat Auburn, it seems like the pathway is pretty clear that this Alabama team will be participating in the postseason college football playoffs.
Well, I mean, certainly if they beat LSU, it's going to put them in a strong position because they're going to be a big favorite for the rest of the season. It's certainly not going to be easy going to Oklahoma, but they would be a favorite probably significantly with how Oklahoma has struggled on offense. Certainly, I know Mercer has a good record, but it's an FCS team. You should whip that team, so they'll be at home. But if they beat LSU, it's certainly setting themselves up. I mean, they've got Mercer at home, then Oklahoma on the road, and then the annual Iron Bowl. Auburn has struggled this year. We know it's been a battle the last two times on the Plains where Alabama had to pull games out, in overtime in one case, and then at the very end of regulation with what we saw last year in the 4th and 31. But at the same time, they've handled Auburn the last several years in Tuscaloosa, usually by double digits. I know Auburn, the last game they won was the comeback in 2010, and everything had to go their way to win that one. So it'll be Kalen DeBoer's first Iron Bowl, which is going to be significant. But again, if they beat LSU, everything is in front of them. But that's what they have to do first and foremost. They have to handle the Bayou Bengals, and certainly LSU has a really good offensive team. Nussmeier, he's not a mobile guy, but he's a gunslinger back there. They've got, Kyron Lacey to defend. Aaron Anderson, who I've always loved, who I wish had stayed at Alabama. He's had a big year. We all know what Mason Taylor did 2 years ago. And their running game has been hit or miss, and that's kind of where Alabama needs to take advantage because Alabama is near the bottom of the conference. I think they're 14th in run defense in the SEC, but LSU's last in running the football. So they need to, show what they did. Like I thought against Missouri, they did a decent job. They need to do that against LSU. They need to make sure LSU doesn't have a career night running the football. They need to make them one-dimensional. And if they do that with, the 10 turnovers or so they've forced in the last 3 games, if they continue to be disruptive and force turnovers against LSU, I think that's the formula for Alabama winning the game. They've got to force turnovers. They've got to put the game in Nussmeier's hands, and then they've got to pressure him and force him into mistakes. And then if you're Jalen Milroe, he was not great in the last game, but he was good enough. He has to protect the ball, and he has to use his legs because the weather may be inclement too. So his mobility and opportunities to run the football, which he did so well last year. I think he had 155 and 4 rushing touchdowns, and he threw for over 200. He's got to be a true dual threat QB for Alabama to win this game.
Yeah, and you do look at it. You pointed it out. Sacks allowed. LSU is great at protecting the quarterback, but which really it doesn't make a lot of sense because Garrett Nussmeier, he does get it out quick, but he's not a guy that's going to beat you with his feet. Do I see something that maybe you see different?
No, I mean he might make a play or two with him, but he doesn't beat you with his feet. He's a pocket guy. He wants to stand back there, go through his progression, and he wants to get the ball down the field. And Alabama's secondary is going to have to hold up. Now we know they're not going to have Keon Sabb, but I thought in the last game, his first start, I thought Blake Hubbard did a great job. Bray Hubbard. I thought Bray Hubbard did a really nice job. I thought he was good in coverage. He got a pick. He did a good job for the most part tackling in the open field. Bray did. And so I think that'll give him a lot of confidence. But they also should have some guys back. Hopefully Devontae Smith will be healthier. Red Morgan. They should have some more guys they can rotate back there. And then the corners, they're going to be challenged, man. I mean, they're going to take some shots. They're going to, they seem to want to pick on Xavier Brown. At times, Domani Jackson has had some holding penalties, so he's going to have to be on point. But this should be a huge challenge for this defense, and they should be motivated to want to go out and prove something, And then I think Alabama, when you look at LSU, they're improved defensively. But, I mean, they could not have been worse last year. That's kind of my point. I mean, it was probably the worst defense in school history. They brought in Blake Baker, a couple of coaches from Missouri. They brought in Bo Davis. They got the band back together in the secondary. So again, they've got a completely new coaching staff. But I also think that they still have some issues. I mean, they're still 11th in the SEC in rush defense, which is better than they were, but it's still not great. And then you look at it too, and they're near the bottom of the league in pass defense. They don't have the pros with Corey Raymond back there that you would think that they probably will in the future. So this is a defense that Alabama can still exploit. There's matchups they can win, and then you look at Kalen DeBoer's record coming off of bye week. He certainly had Alabama ready to go, especially in that first half against Georgia. Now what you need to see Alabama do is they haven't really put four quarters together, and I guess you could say they did against Mizzou, but they got off to a slow start. They need to put their four best quarters together in order to win in Red Stick and, replant that flag of property ownership that they've done so much over the years in Baton Rouge, because I think everybody understands that the winning percentage there, and under Nick Saban they were 6-2. The two they lost a game down to the wire in 2010, and then we know what happened last year. And other than that, Alabama won 6 other ball games. A lot of them were classics, but they always found a way to win, and that's what the Tide has to do this Saturday night.
All right, you mentioned LSU there for a couple of minutes. I want to ask you about the rushing offense for these guys for just a couple of minutes. When you look at LSU not being able to run the football, they're the worst team in the SEC at running the football. Being one-dimensional kind of reminds me a little of Alabama's problems early on in the season, right? I mean, they were kind of one-dimensional. They didn't run the football that well. But even Alabama, from a statistical standpoint, now Milrose are certainly able to maybe skew the data a little bit. Alabama's up to number 5 in rushing the football. LSU's not great at stopping it, but LSU's not good at running the football. I mean, 16 out of 16 in these big games, you would feel like that's another advantage for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I know you kind of touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, they need to, stop the run, no question about it. I mean, we know that Caden Durham has come on since early in the season. The freshman is a runner and receiver. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns. He's averaged over 5 yards per carry, but he's the guy they're going to have to stop. I mean, Josh Williams, the captain, I'm sure he'll get some touches, but John Emery's out for the year. Caleb Jackson really hasn't had a breakout type game. So Alabama's going to have to stop Caden Durham first and foremost. That's what you have to do. You have to take away something from an offense, and Alabama needs to do that. And then they do need to, vary the looks up. I thought they blitzed a little bit more against Missouri. They need to do that. They need to continue to try to do that and put pressure on, Garrett Nussmeier, get in his face, make him hurry throws. Don't give him all day back there to throw, because those guys are too good. I mean, Tyron Lacey's had a breakout year. Aaron Anderson has too. We all know Mason Taylor can make plays. They've got several guys that are very, very capable. So Alabama needs to get Garrett Nussmeier off his spot, make him throw the football when he's uncomfortable, and then hopefully that'll lead to mistakes. I believe he has 9 interceptions. We've seen they were able to turn Carson Beck over, and they're going to have to use the same formula against LSU to get this win, no doubt about it.
Hey, Drew, before we go to basketball and we set up this evening's games against UNC Asheville, and by the way, I've got an extra pair of tickets for anybody that would have an interest. I'll give away at some point during the show, so we'll do that here, but try to put some fannies in the seats. 8 o'clock, we'll have the call here with a pregame starting officially with the Crimson Tide Sports Network at 7 p.m., women's basketball with a doubleheader. We're also going to do a pregame starting at 6, and we're going to get you ready for Alabama Crimson Tide basketball. Drew, you are heading to T-Town, right, for the opener?
Yes, I'll be there. I plan on being on the road soon and looking forward to it. It's probably the most anticipated Alabama basketball season I can ever remember. I know the 91 team that I saw over at Gunnersville High School when I was still a student at Huntsville High. I know that was James Hollywood Robinson and those guys, and they had a lot of expectations. And, they had a good year. They won the SEC tournament. They went on a run in the NCAAs. But at the same time, I mean, this team's coming off a Final Four berth. They put together as good a roster as I've seen. And I watched them in Huntsville a week ago today against Memphis, and they played a good basketball in the first half. I wouldn't say great, but good. And they were up 49-29. And then the second half with, the foul rules and everything and not being able to foul out, it just kind of turned into, a physical foul fest, and it wasn't fun to watch, but they still won 96-88 without, arguably three starters in Chris Youngblood, Grant Nelson, certainly, and Latrell Wright. So also, they didn't have Aiden Sherrill. So some of those guys, I think three of those guys will be back, beside all of them but Youngblood tonight, and they'll have a minute restriction, but it's still going to be good to see them on the floor. And they're playing a UNC Asheville team that won 22 games a year ago, 27 the year before that. So they're a good system program. They do a great job on the mid-major level. So it'll be a test to some degree, but just looking forward to seeing this team play and compete. And I think what is the deepest backcourt in college basketball, because I think they have five quality options when you talk about, the reigning SEC, player of the year, in my opinion. I mean, I know he didn't win the job, Dalton Connect, or didn't win that award, Dalton Connect did, but he was as good as any player in the SEC, and he's preseason SEC player of the year in Mark Sears. They've got Reitzel back, who we were just talking about. They've got the freshman LeBaron Philon, who's electric. They've got a perfect system fit, in Houston Millette, who I was really enjoyed watching knock down threes, against Memphis. I think he's an outstanding player. And then Aiden Holloway, the Auburn transfer. So they've got a lot of weapons and a lot of talent, and just looking forward to seeing the first chapter tonight against UNC Asheville.
If there is any concern about this team, and I know it's hard to project in the month of November what's going to happen in March. I'm not asking you to do that. But if you see anything that maybe you bring a question to, what is it, if anything at all? I'm not trying to force you to have something, but is there something out there that you question around this basketball team?
Well, you've got to take care of the basketball. They had 20 turnovers against Memphis. If you turn the basketball over, or if you turn the football over in football, you're going to lose. You have to take care of the basketball. Certainly, I know people understand that they weren't a great defensive team a year ago, but that'll be a work in progress with Brian Adams coming over from the NBA. I do think they're going to be better defensively, and they'll continue to get better as the season goes on, as long as they're healthy. And you have two new rim protectors in Cliff Amore and certainly Aiden Sherrill. But I think the big thing is just taking care of the basketball, and playing free, not worry. That's, you're going to have to make sure everybody buys in, because they're not going to get the minutes, that they want to. And that's just normal, because there's this, like Nate Oates even said the other day when they met the media, a guy like Nas Cunningham might get redshirted. I mean, he didn't play. I think he played a total of under 10 minutes combined in the two exhibition wins over Wake Forest and Memphis. He's a very talented player, but we saw Chris Parker get redshirted last year. Then he transferred to Villanova. But again, they just can't get everybody minutes. So the couple things would just be to take care of the basketball, don't give it away, and then, of course, make sure that the buy-in's good and the chemistry's good. I thought the bench energy was great the other night. Of course, some guys were hurt. They knew they weren't going to play. So when everybody's available, that's going to be very, very interesting to see how it works out. But practices should be something to watch, because that's where minutes are going to be earned. But again, that's going to be up to Nate Oates, and he's a really good communicator and gets his players to buy in. So that's just a couple of concerns right now for me, is, again, keeping everyone happy, and then, taking care of the basketball. I do think they have enough talent to get better on the defensive end. The transition defense wasn't great the second half against Memphis, but I think, they were missing some bodies as well, and that can improve as the season goes on. But the two things that I think concern me the most right now would be taking care of the basketball, and then everyone buying into their role and just wanting to, set aside their egos to try to win a national championship, which I think Alabama has a very good shot at doing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to think about the excitement of this Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team and what Nate Oates has been able to do. I want to ask you real quick, because I know you focus on the University of Alabama and 99% of the content that we ask you, but you also keep an eye on what's happening across the state. It just doesn't look like that program has got any momentum. I know they talked about recruiting. It would be hard for me to be able to convince myself that team is going to finish the way that it started recruiting. You may have other plans. I know NIL certainly plays a role. But if you think about Hugh Freeze right now, 9-13 as Auburn's head coach. And at this point, Brian Harsin was 9-12. So Hugh Freeze has lost more games than Brian Harsin. Probably not going to create a scandal like they did against Brian Harsin, but I'm just curious, what is going wrong across the state?
Well, I just think they made a big mistake with evaluating their quarterback situation. And again, Hugh Freeze is not a quarterback.
But isn't that supposed to be a strength of Hugh Freeze, that offensive side of the ball?
He's what I was saying. He's a play caller. I don't think he's a quarterback developer. He does a good job of building an offense, if he has talent and calling plays, but I don't think they did a very good job of evaluating their quarterback situation. I don't think Peyton Thorne's been a good fit for their system, and they could have made a decision to go in a different direction last offseason, and they didn't do it, and I think they paid for it. I think also, and this is not completely on Hugh Freeze, I think the recruiting the last 2 or 3 years under Gus Malzahn had started to wane, and then the 2 years under Harsin, it was an unmitigated disaster. Now, I do think he signed a pretty good class last year. You've seen a lot of those guys, like the DeMarcus Riddick making plays. They've had several young defensive backs step up. You've seen, some of the receivers. I do think Cam Coleman is still very likely going to be a good player, and I think they've got some good young offensive linemen, at center, and also some guys at offensive tackle that I think will be pretty good. But the problem is, it's very hard. Alabama is an outlier. It's very hard to recruit a guy that's ready to play coming out of high school on the offensive line in the SEC. And so I just think you look at it, I think their defense under DJ Durkin definitely has made strides and has improved. Now in certain places, like I think at linebacker, they're still lacking some depth. And I think they're having to depend on too many young guys in the secondary because they lost guys to the NFL. And on their defensive line, I think it's better, but so many of them are young, even though I think Keldrick Falk is a stud. I think Malik Blockton is going to be a really good player. But right now, they just don't have enough difference makers on offense. And the biggest thing, especially with Hughes' offense, you have to be able to throw the football. It's quarterback-centric. And I think early in the year, too, they didn't use Jarquez Hunter properly. And then Vanderbilt kind of took him away in the second half, and they only gave him the ball 2 times. And I think Vandy knew, okay, look, I know he got a 15-yard carry on the first play, but we need to limit Jarquez Hunter, because if we do, the rest of this Auburn offense does not scare us. And that's what happened, and they held Auburn to 7 points and really didn't get a great game from Diego Pavia. I think Auburn defended Vandy about as well as you can. They held him to 232 yards. But, as Jake Crane told us on a show this morning, these Auburn upperclassmen just don't know how to win, and they don't. They're not winners. They have never won at Auburn, and very, very likely they're going to have their 4th straight losing season. They've never won a bowl game, and so they just don't make winning plays. And right now, Hugh Freeze has made some coaching mistakes, no question about it. But this Auburn offense, this Auburn team is just, they don't have the Jimmies and the Joes that they need to compete in this league. And that's why I've got them ranked 15th in my SEC rankings right now.
So that's in front of Mississippi State, and that's it when you look at the Auburn Tigers. Drew DeArmond, 97.7 The Zone up in Huntsville, Alabama. Safe trip down to T-Town, man. Appreciate you as always. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Ryan.
Drew D977 ESPN on the Twitter account. Drew D977 ESPN, 97.7 The Zone up in Huntsville, the only sports station in the Rocket City. Him and Scott Tyson do talking ball from 7 until 9 every morning. We're going to take phone calls. We're going to talk about the good of the weekend. Even though it's not an Alabama recap, there were still some great things happen. We'll highlight those. Daniel Moore Art presents every Monday, DanielMooreArt.com, whether it's the Nick Saban legend print that you could find. Maybe it's, 4th and 31, talking about setting up what will be Fear the Thumb from Jalen Milroe to Isaiah Bond, the Ryan Williams print, Deuces Wild. You can find that, which is Xavier Brown's interception, set up, sealed the game, but the touchdown from Jalen Milroe to Ryan Williams, 75-yard touchdown pass. DanielMooreArt.com, DanielMooreArt.com. Remember the code word, the game, No space is the code word. Save a significant discount, and you can find it right there. Let's continue with more of the game. We'll take your phone calls. T10 right back into the game here in Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Let me remind you about Nuke's Eatery. If you're looking for a great sandwich, 205 University Boulevard, 205-758-2455. It is the Nuke's Q sandwich, which is the #1 sandwich across the franchise. Oh, it's incredible. Man, that white barbecue sauce. The Nuke's Q, you've got the club. And I always say this, what's better than the club? The double club. You can find the French dip sandwich. That's always a great option. You know, as the cooler weather hopefully will arrive at some point, the daily soup specials are always a big hit. They mix those up, the great salads, the California-style pizzas, and you can parlay those into different things, right? You can go, half sandwich, full sandwich, half soup, half salad, half soup. I mean, a lot of different combinations there that you can, combine and parlay those into a great meal at Nuke's Eatery. Let's go to Paul in Lincoln. Paul, good afternoon. You're in the game. How are you?
Embrace the suck, Ryan. Embrace the suck.
SAUCK.
That's right. SAUCK, and the AU stands for?
The Auburn Tigers.
The Auburn
Tigers.
The Auburn Tigers.
I want to give you a little credit here. I used this on Facebook over the weekend. It got a lot of views, a lot of interactions, a lot of views. And I did not say anything other than Auburn, SAUCKS. And I put the photo up of Vanderbilt taking down the Auburn Tigers. And, man, they are in the gutter. Like, be honest with me. This is worse than what I thought this season was going to be for the Auburn Tigers.
This is exactly what I long for, Ryan. I long for nothing but destruction down there. I don't care.
But be honest. You didn't think this was going to be this bad.
Well, no, I didn't think they'd lose to Cal. I didn't think, I certainly at the start of the year, didn't think they'd lose to Vanderbilt. But, hey, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. And it wasn't a fluke, Ryan. Vanderbilt kicked our butts, okay? Let me throw some stats at you, Ryan. With the loss to the Vanderbilt Commodores this past Saturday, Vanderbilt evened the all-time football record against the Bugs at 22-1. Okay. That loss, now Hugh Hefner, Hunter Freeze, his all-time SEC record as a coach in the SEC, it fell to, are you ready? 23 wins and 31 losses. Okay? His last 19 games as the SAUCK coach, his record is 6 wins and 13 losses.
I mean, you can't.
That is, Ryan, that's borderline. No, it's not borderline. That is absolutely pathetic. That is an embarrassment to this state, okay? The fans, not all, but there's a good part of that fan base that are done with Hugh Hefner, Hunter Freeze. I mean, Jordan-Hare Stadium, with about 6 minutes to go in that game, looked like a ghost town. Are you hear me? A ghost town. They've given up on the Bugs. They have nothing to cheer for.
I was listening to it on the broadcast. Okay, I wanted to hear. By the way, Jason Campbell is so much better than Stan White. It ain't even funny. I mean, Jason Campbell is just. I mean, he is actually tolerable. But they didn't, between him and Andy Bertram and Jason Campbell, they had no explanation, and you could hear it. You know, your announcers for your team are going to be pro. Just like our team is, right? With Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts, Damian Square. They're pro-Alabama, man. I mean, they're Alabama guys. You listening to them, you could hear the pain in their voice. You could hear, this balloon that had been let out, the air. I mean, they're already looking at ULM and saying, you know what, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And Who knows if it will be? But I mean, that win right there assured Auburn that they will not have a winning season.
How many of that fandom are going to want to show up at 11 a.m. in 2 Saturdays to see that dumpster fire of a football team play ULM? Are you kidding me? But Ryan, it's so Auburn. It is so Auburn. They're just one recruiting class away, Ryan.
Oh yeah,
one recruiting
where are
class.
They currently ranked right now as far as recruiting? Are they still?
They're pretty high. They're pretty high. I think they're like top 5.
Okay, well, I would start out by asking: are these kids that are going to qualify academically?
Well, that you don't know yet.
I mean, okay, yes, they've got 27 commitments. They've got 1 5-star and 17 4-stars. Okay, but you have to be honest. Now, the rebuttal is the transfer portal gives you a way out. So if you go there and it doesn't work out, you've got an exit plan that really doesn't penalize you, other than you had to spend a year in Lee County, which should be punishment with itself. But 27 kids feel like that's the better opportunity in the SEC. Bless their heart. I mean, Drew said a couple of minutes ago. He said he's got 16 teams in his power rankings. He does it for the Houston Chronicle.
Yeah,
I do it for the AJC, the Atlanta paper. I've got Auburn at 15 too. Mississippi State at 16. They're the second worst program in the SEC.
They're an embarrassment, Ryan. They're hard. They're hard. They're not hard for me to watch because I love what's happening down there. I love the fire and brimstone raining down on them. I do. I hope that program burns to the ground. Okay, but it's hard to watch that team play because they look so incompetent. Hugh Hefner, Hunter Harsin, Freeze he is a basket case. He looks lost as a goose over there on the sideline. He does. I mean, what an embarrassment for this state, having to share this state with that deadbeat program down there. My gosh, they're headed to their 4th consecutive losing season. 4th consecutive losing season, and they try to call themselves a blue blood. Are you kidding me? They're an embarrassment. That program is an absolute embarrassment.
And Drew said it a couple of minutes ago, and I don't want to spend all of our time talking about Auburn, but Drew said it a couple of minutes ago, from a quarterback development standpoint, we'll go try to convince a proven quarterback to come to that school right now and play in that offense. You're not going to find one. I mean,
the shine's off Hugh Freeze.
Yeah,
the shine is off Hugh Freeze.
If they could have found one, they would have went and got one this offseason.
Yeah. The only reason, as I've said many, many times, the only reason he's in Lee County is because what happened in 2014 and 2015 against Alabama. That is the only reason he's down there. Why else would you hire him? You know what kind of baggage he's got, what kind of skeletons he has in his closet. Why else would you hire him except for that reason?
Yeah, good point. Best thing that happened for you, I guess, was pretty fair. The good moment is DanielMooreArt.com presents the good moments as Vanderbilt beating Auburn. Was there anything else, Paul, that take away from your weekend?
Well, I tell you, if Georgia goes to Oxford and plays like they have, they were ready for Texas. They looked dilapidated against Florida. I'm not so sure Florida may win that game if Lagway doesn't get hurt. Georgia has got some. Carson Beck looks like a deer in the headlights, man. I tell you what. And now he's got to go face Pete Golding's defense in Oxford Saturday. I tell you what, Georgia better be ready to play. Now, I'm not saying, listen, I'm just making a joke about Pied Peter, but Ole Miss looked pretty darn solid against Arkansas. Arkansas is not a bad football team. They went up there and destroyed them. They destroyed them. So Georgia they better be on lookout when they go to Oxford Saturday.
Well, shoot, I thought our resume booster was fixed to be gone. Yeah, you need that, but if these teams in front of you keep losing, and I think tomorrow evening you're going to see Alabama in the top 10 in this college football playoff. I think there's going to be, because you got to remember all these other polls, they're important until we get to tomorrow evening, and then they're done. You know, number 11, it really doesn't matter. The AP poll is a novelty poll. The USA Today coaches poll is a novelty poll. College football playoff poll takes, and I wish we'd start it earlier because I think it would give us a better barometer of where these teams are. But we'll see their value. If you see Alabama at the top 10, hey, just keep winning, man. Just keep winning.
Listen, everything hinges on Baton Rouge Saturday night. Everything.
It does. Everything. Yep.
And LSU is going to put the whole game on Jalen Milroe's shoulders. They're going to make Jalen Milroe, because they think with that environment down there, they think the same Jalen Milroe that went to Knoxville is going to come to Baton Rouge. That's what they're thinking. That's what their coaches are thinking. That's what their players are thinking. They know, or they think, that they can rattle him and get him off schedule. And we've got to hope that the player that went to Knoxville and played doesn't go to Baton Rouge. We need Jalen. We need Jalen to have one of his better games
and get off to a fast start. Kalen DeBoer talked about that. We'll play that audio clip in the next segment. Paul, appreciate the hard work. A lot of people know what you've been doing the last 3 or 4 days and the last few weeks. So your work does not go unnoticed. Keep up the good work, and our fingers are crossed. Our prayers have been said.
Let's get him across the finish line. Vote, vote, vote. Do not sit this one out, guys and girls. Our country, we're at a tipping point. Let's get him across the finish line, and I think the majority of us and your listening on it will be smiling.
Paul, thank you, man. Hope you have a great rest of your day, man. Thank you.
Roll Tide and roll MAGA.
And that will be the final. Paul picked up that roll MAGA, I guess, 8, 9, 10 months ago, and he's continued it. Hey, it's. I know it's the political season, right? It's the big election. We've got LSU. We've got Alabama basketball opening up their first game, UNC Asheville. We've got the call right here starting at 8 o'clock with a lot of pregame activity starting at 6, 7. So we're going to have coverage immediately following this program, leading right into Alabama Crimson Tide basketball with UNC Asheville. We're going to get your phone calls if you want to jump in. Highlight the good moment of the weekend. Wayne and Northport, you're coming up in a couple of minutes. 205-342-9904. 205-342. Hey, we welcome you right back into the game. Count Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports. A lot of things on our mind. Certainly Alabama football is one of them. Alabama at LSU. The week has finally arrived, and the pressure. We're going to get to Kalen DeBoer coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to dive into Wayne in Northport. We do have one line available if you want to jump in. 205-342-9904. We'll give away a 2025 calendar courtesy of DanielMooreArt.com. We're taking your good moments. Now, we know we don't have an Alabama game to recap, but there was plenty of good moments throughout the weekend. South Carolina beating Texas A&M. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Texas Tech taking down Iowa State. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And some others, right? Louisville beating Clemson. Thank you. Dabo's system. Is it going to work? I don't know. I mean, it looks like it has some doubts. Looking at it. Let's start with Kalen DeBoer, because we talk about the pressure of this game, right? It's LSU. It's Alabama. Alabama goes there and loses. There's really not a pathway to get to the college football playoffs. Now, at the start of the season, we thought 9-3 might be a possibility. We thought 9-3 might be able to get you in. We thought 9-3 might be able to take you to a place, and you might be able to get the back door in the college football playoffs. At this point, now, unless there's some more chaos that happens, 9-3 is probably not going to get you in. But I feel pretty comfortable if you're 10-2. I think it's going to get you in. And I think tomorrow evening will be a confirmation of that in the college football playoff. The football power index, which I like. because I think it gives us a little bit of a barometer. This team is still in love. When we talk about the analytic numbers, they are still in love with the University of Alabama. From a schedule strength standpoint, they are number 3 overall. Number 3 overall. Let that sink in. Texas 1, Ohio State 2, 3, Alabama 4, Georgia 5, Notre Dame 6, Ole Miss 7, Oregon, which doesn't make any sense at all from an analytics standpoint. I'm just saying the analytics love Alabama. They've got this Alabama football team at a 55.7 percentile of going to the college football playoffs. And then when they make the college football playoffs, they're talking about, when you talk about making the national championship game, so not just getting in the playoffs, but doing some damage, they have it about a 15.0. So a 15%, they've got Alabama making the college football playoffs. So, and that number that went up from the conference championship, which at this point, highly unlikely that they would have a, that it would take a lot to put them, in that spot. Even that number went up a little bit. That's a 15.1% of making the conference championship or winning the conference. So little things to chew on. This was not just a good weekend for my eye test, but Vanderbilt, keep winning. Keep winning, Vanderbilt. We need you. We don't need that loss to be as bad as some of the other losses. And I think that's where you're looking at it. Alabama's got a couple of quality losses, and, you hope Tennessee continues to do what they're able to do and be right there as well. So Vanderbilt kind of showing you, hey, we can win. We can win. We spent a little time talking about the Auburn Tigers and the problems across the state. But let's go back to the K104 audio. I thought there was a lot of meat and potatoes in this clip, talking about the pressure of going to Baton Rouge, and really not just going to Baton Rouge. It'll be the same story when you go to Norman, Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. The pressure is on this Alabama football team. They have no margin of error.
You saw our response, I think, with the Missouri game, because really, that was the case there. And, I say that, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, why wasn't that the case when we went to Tennessee? Well, it was. It's just more experiences that you have together. The backs of the wall. There's different things that different teams respond well to, and at least for the first test, and Missouri was at home. We got off to a fast start defensively, did a nice job there, and just continued to apply pressure, I think, offensively. And once we got the field position in our favor, we kind of cracked through. But for us, it's just always going back to really the process and, the work that needs to be put in, the areas we needed to continue to improve on. And the guys, I use the word intentional a lot, whether it's here, whether it's with our team. We have to be intentional, and we got to bring that energy in order to really continue to improve. And they're doing that, and they want to make something big of this season. And it's supported through the action that you see on the practice field. You see it in just the way they're going about their business off the field. Just the details that really continue to hone in on. And it's just a matter of time, right? As the season goes on, you become more comfortable with what we're doing, whether it's our scheme or just the routine or each other. And a lot of our youth is rising up and continuing to gain more and more confidence, mixed in with the veterans that continue to bring great leadership. So I like where we're at. Unfortunately, like you said, we have less wiggle room, and our backs are to the wall, and so we're going to fight each and every day, bite, scratch, and claw, like you've never seen, and that continues on this week.
Man, that is a clip right there. If that doesn't get you fired up, hey, we're going to scratch, claw. We're going to try to fight. Hopefully this team shows a little bit of that fight as they get ready to go to Baton Rouge. I know they needed the bye week. People that I spoke to in the building, even though these were injuries, just bumps and bruises, they were not major injuries. They were just things that they needed to get better from the 2 bye weeks. Perfect in a scenario to get back and get healthy. You just, as he said, I like where this team is at, and they've had to put some training wheels on this defense, just a little bit, right? Just to make sure that you could schematic wise, but it goes back. They've got 40 new players on their roster, 40 new players That's one of the things that, we're going to talk about right here on the game. Let's go to Wayne in Northport. Wayne, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well.
Good afternoon, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Hope you're doing great.
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, all those results you talked about, that was a really important weekend for Alabama based on where we were in the rankings and where I think we will be based on the upheaval that happened. And there's one game this weekend besides Alabama that I'm not sure what to do. South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Where do we go with that? Because we beat South Carolina and Vanderbilt.
But well, think about it from this standpoint, okay? From South Carolina, that win against them, gives you a little something from a resume booster. But Vanderbilt's right now in South Carolina's the favorite in that game that you're talking about. But from a standpoint of I see what you're saying. You're in a little bit of a dilemma. Let's see if we can get to Vanderbilt to 7 wins. Let's just see. They've got South Carolina this weekend at LSU. Probably not going to win that. You don't want Vanderbilt to drop 3 in a row and end the season on a 3-game slide. So I guess you pull for Vanderbilt, man. Let them win this game. South Carolina, you got that win. Let's see South Carolina. See what their schedule is. They've got 5 right now. They play Missouri at home also, but that game's in Nashville. Then they play Missouri at home. Then they play Wofford at home, and then they've got Clemson on the road. South Carolina could still have a respectable season. I mean, there's still probably 7 wins right there on that schedule.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd rather the Vanderbilt.
We're tied with Vanderbilt in the league standings.
Yeah, I'd rather Vanderbilt keep winning.
Yeah, because it makes that loss not look as bad. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm really looking forward to the basketball game tonight. We'll talk more about the LSU game as the week goes on, but I'm really looking forward to the basketball game tonight, and I got my fingers crossed for tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Well, it's going to be a big day. It's going to be a big day, and I think the political season has got a lot of things on our mind. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's very difficult to come in. It reminds you a little bit of the issues that our country's faced, but economically, when I see people going to the grocery store and I see them having to sit there and put back items because they can't afford them, that bothers me as a fellow American. That bothers me.
I'm just praying for regardless of what happens tomorrow, I'm just praying for the country.
Yeah, I mean, I see people at the gas station all the time pulling up, and they'll buy $4 or $5 worth of gasoline. And I'm just sitting there going, it's basically they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it's sad that we have so many people in our country that think that is a good method to live, because it's not. It's not. And, those who are at the bottom are really the ones who have been hurt the most. I mean, those that don't have the wiggle room. It's sad. I mean, it really breaks my heart. And like I said, there's so many people that, it's like the Titanic. The Titanic hit the iceberg. It'd be like backing up and hitting it again. And we have a decision to make tomorrow, and there's consequences for all decisions. We'll see what consequences will be for tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll see you, Ryan. Have a good day, and it'll probably be Wednesday before you hear from me again.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate you.
Right.
Let's break. I'll tell you what, let's take Robert in Mobile. Robert, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well. Hey, Robert. Hey, Robert. Can I hear you? Yep. I can hear you, but maybe not. Why don't we break and we'll come back and we'll get Robert on the other side if that might be a better option. I've also got some more Kalen DeBoer audio clip, but also some stats that really jump out about this game. When you look at Alabama's history there, I mean, look at the record. I mean, we've lost 6 times in 60 years in Baton Rouge. That 30-year run, that tie 14-14 in Ray Perkins' era. But if you think about Baton Rouge has always been kind. Now, I don't know how that will help you other than, hey, Alabama's had a lot of success down there. LSU seems to be, from a perspective, maybe they're a little bit better than where they've been. But really, in a lot of ways, they're not. Offensively, it seems like Brian Kelly's there. Defensively, they still have a lot of questions. Now, Jalen Milroe can take advantage of those. And if he could be the mobile quarterback that we know that he's capable of, this Alabama football team can go and do some damage on the road. We saw the way that they struggled a couple of weeks ago against Texas A&M. Rumsey Environmental is a one-stop shop serving West Alabama for all of your waste removal needs. When you have to know it's being done right, that's the time to call Rumsey Environmental. We're going to talk with Tony Sescalis coming up in about 10 minutes. We're going to have a chance to feature him, Rivals.com, Tide Illustrated. We're going to preview this Alabama and LSU game from his perspective. I've got a lot of great guests on this week. We're going to talk with T-Bob. We're going to talk with Matt Moscana. We're going to talk with Mike Detillier, which we always do on Tuesdays. Man, we got a great guest lineup for you. Going to have some fun, and even going to have one of the analytic gurus for the University of Alabama on our show later this week. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to time. But right now we go to Robert in Mobile. Robert, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well. Hey, Robert. I still can't hear Robert Jackson. Is that me or is that him? That must be him, right?
I think that's him.
Okay,
he's there. I don't know why. I'll check real quick.
Well, just put him back on hold, and we'll come back to him coming up. I can hear him, or I can hear something in the background. I couldn't hear him, but check on him if you don't mind, and then we'll try to get him back into the conversation. So. We were talking about that a couple of minutes ago. Joe in Dothan wrote in, says, we need to get off to a great start in Baton Rouge. Paul is correct. We actually do it and not just talk about it, right? Week of Tennessee game, we heard that they were blasting Rocky Top in the facility every day starting at 6 a.m. Then they went out and literally looked like the Three Stooges on the first three offensive plays. The noise clearly affected us. I hope we have a better plan to deal with this time. Joe in Dothan's right. When you look at the crowd noise, that's the issue with Baton Rouge. And like I said, I do know that they were having some issues. They have been doing a lot of communication. And Josh from College Football Nerds was the first one who pointed it out. And you can go back to the tape. Watch the way they snap the football, okay? They would snap the football with 15 seconds to go on the game clock, or maybe even more, because at that point it's cut off. Or maybe it was a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds there after, not giving the defense, to adjust and helping Jalen Milroe to be able to manage a lot of this. So when you listen back at some of the clips, the psychological, Jalen Milroe is a player. When he's got the confidence on his side, he could be a guy that could be in New York City hoisting up that trophy we call the Heisman Trophy. If he doesn't have that, then he could be a guy that looks as lost as he has in a couple of these games. I mean, it's all about that confidence. I think that's the way that when you look at quarterbacks, some are able to put interceptions behind them, and then others, it just, it drags on. You always hear about a defensive back. He's got to have short memory on good plays, short memories on bad plays or disaster plays, live to play another down. Well, Jalen Milroe, to me, the way that I look at it, and the way that I've talked to people behind the scenes, he's a perfectionist. He's a guy that gets in the building at the time that he does, 4 a.m. every morning. Let that sink in. The work ethic's there. But I don't know if you can play that position as a perfectionist. He's got to learn how to put those plays behind him. Take what his skill set is. We saw some hesitation in his running. This week is probably going to do good for him as far as the off week, getting to recalibrate that mind a little bit, getting that refocus, rekindle that fire. Because if he plays the capability, this is LSU's weakness, stopping the mobile quarterback. And that they put a heavy emphasis on fixing that coming out of that Texas A&M game. Now what happens? What happens now? Then if they put a heavy emphasis on fixing the rushing attack from a quarterback, then that deep ball begins to open up. So if they do that, you're going to have some money to be made in the secondary. You're going to be able to make some money in that secondary. Mike Detillier, how many times has he brought up the secondary? There's going to be an opportunity to go and make some money against this LSU defense. and sacks allowed, LSU is one of the best teams in the country. So you're going to try to find a way on the other side to put pressure on Garrett Nussmeier. Pretty solid quarterback, but a guy that loves to stand in that pocket. And if you think about LSU's offensive line, they've had one injury. Both those tackles look pretty good. I know Drew and I were talking about this earlier, but Texas A&M doing a great job throwing the football. But when it comes to running the football, they're one of the worst teams in college football. They're not a very good. And if you look at 16 teams in the SEC, LSU at the bottom. They're the only team in the SEC that is not rushed for at least 1,000 yards. Let that sink in. Rushing the football with touchdowns, not even inside the goal line. They're just a team that struggles to run the football. When you look at average attempts, it's not like they're not dedicated to run the football. They know they can't run it, but they still try. So they average, as far as attempts, about 27 per game. But this goes back to where Alabama was when they were more of a one-dimensional football team. Hopefully this rushing attack will continue down in Baton Rouge. We'll talk about it. Tony Tsoukalos coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We'll give it away a Daniel Moore calendar 2020 UTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Med Center, urgent care, family medicine, no appointment necessary. The super doctors who live and work in our community. MedCenterUrgentCare.com. MedCenterUrgentCare.com. Whether it's injuries, occupational health, a little under the weather, we're going to get you back to 100%. You can do that by visiting either location. It is MedCenterUrgentCare.com. MedCenterUrgentCare.com. Let's continue right here with more phone calls, and we'll do that coming up in about 15 minutes. But right now we're going to Tony Tsoukalos, Rivals.com, Tide Illustrated. Tony, I hope all is well. Hopefully you got your batteries recharged after the weekend coming off this bye week. I know you beat reporters work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I appreciate you. I hope all is well, man.
Yeah, Ryan, everything's going pretty good.
Good. It's LSU Alabama week. Anything that Kalen DeBoer said during his press conference that grabbed you?
I just think that the fact that he's kind of challenging his players, this is such a crucial time for the team. And, with Alabama kind of playing with it, I'm kind of just interested to see how, just how they come out and respond. Because I think, this is the time last season where you really saw the team kind of kick it into another gear, especially maybe Jalen Milroe in particular. And you saw how good they came out in that Georgia game with a week off. I kind of expect them to respond in a similar way. And if they can get past this LSU game, and I know you got to take it one game at a time, but if you can come out firing, you can build up some momentum. I like their matchups for the rest of the month. And then, you could really get rolling again. And, SEC championship game is probably out of the picture. But, you start rolling into this playoff. And, I think, Kalen DeBoer can win some of these big.
Well, I like what he said, and I know that Saturday, if it doesn't go Alabama's way, I'm sure he could probably, say that, hey, it was. But when he said, I like where this team is at, that's a coach that believes in his football team. And I know this young team needs to hear that, but I almost described the first 8 games. They had training wheels on this team, and you saw them begin to, I don't know if you did this, Tony. You might have been a guy that just jumped on a bicycle and you automatically just went right down that hill in your parents, right? I mean, they let you go. And Tony, I don't know if you were that guy, but I was a training wheel guy, okay? Then your parents would even take one of the wheels off. And then you would still balance, but you could always lean one way. You didn't have the other wheel. That's what I see about this team. It's almost like as the year has progressed, they've added more to them. They've added it. And you can see like the defense. I mean, the defense played a pretty good game the last time out, and you feel like that Kane Womack is building on that young secondary.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have to learn a new defense. They have to learn a whole new playbook. You know what I'm saying? And the coaches have to get familiar with the players. The players have to get familiar with the coaches. So yeah, it's not at full strength as it would be in a normal year. I mean, there is that transition. You can't really use that as an excuse, but I do think you're starting to see things, form together. It's more about consistency with this team because we saw glimpses of it early in the season, and then, it kind of went away. If the defense, like you were talking about, they're getting off the field a lot better. They're doing a lot of they're getting turnovers. They're forcing quarterbacks into tough situations. If they can continue to do that and stay sound and avoid penalties, then this could be a really good defense. We were talking at the beginning of the season that it, could end up maybe being the strength of this team. And then, they kind of hit, kind of a bad period where they couldn't get off the field and everything was going wrong. And, you couldn't play complete games. So it wasn't just all the defense. I mean, the offense was struggling to move the ball on first down, on the ground and with the traditional running plays. And so, it does kind of seem like this team's putting things together. I just want to see them do it on a consistent basis. And I think this is such a big game against LSU. It's going to be a big game. I asked both coordinators about the line of scrimmage. You look at this game against LSU, you talk about on the defense, they're going up against two of the best tackles they'll face. I mean, these are two, two first or second round tackles that with Will Campbell is going to be a top, maybe 5 overall pick. And then with Jones, you got another maybe day 2 tackle. LSU doesn't give up sacks, and that's you're going to have to pressure the quarterback and create and get Garrett Nussmeier into some of those tough situations. And that's going to be a big test for Kane Wommack's defense. And then on the other side of the ball for Nick Sheridan, you got an LSU defense that is, I think, ranked 9th in the nation in sacks, and so that's going to be a big test for maybe an Elijah Pritchett, maybe do some things to quicker and kind of neutralize that LSU pass rush. But those are all things that, we've seen, Ryan. We've seen them be able to do some of that stuff. It's just a matter of it being on a consistent basis.
All right. You mentioned Elijah Pritchett right there. And I think it was you that put up the stats. When you look at the pressures, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, he leads the team in giving up pressures. Is there anything that you see in him that they can make an adjustment, help him out a little bit? Maybe you can chip. Maybe you can put a tight end out there to give him some protection. He's a better run blocker, but as far as pass pro, he's not where he needs to be.
I asked Kalen DeBoer about, Robbie Utes. I think that's a guy that maybe is a great blocker, and maybe you do put somebody out there to chip and to maybe help out. But I really just think you're going to need better execution from Elijah Pritchett. Look, we've seen him do it. He's not incapable of doing it. He's a 5-star tackle, and he's somebody that we've seen make some really great plays. He's athletic. You mentioned he's better in the running game. He is better in the running game, but he's also capable in the passing game. It's not like they got some 3-star bum that they're just trying to make do with. I mean, Elijah Pritchett's a really talented guy. He's a top tackle in his class. But the thing is, he's got to do it on a consistent basis. And when he misses, he cannot miss as bad as he's missing. I mean, he's really left, Jalen Milroe out to dry a couple of times where he's just gotten smacked. And a lot of those times, those plays can result in fumbles like they did in the Vanderbilt game, or you're just going to get your quarterback just, his head knocked off. And you really just can't have that. You got to give Jalen a chance. You looked at what, Jalen was able to do against this LSU team and maybe some of the run packages they were successful last year. And I think those are possible again this year, but you are going to have to pass the ball and you are going to have to give him some time to find his options. So I think really they're just going to need Elijah Pritchett to step up, but there are, like I said, Robbie Utes, or maybe you get some chip blocking from the running backs. Maybe you do some, block release, to keep Alabama or to keep LSU honest, maybe do some things to just kind of keep them second guessing themselves. And obviously, with a guy like Jalen Milroe, there's a lot you can do to kind of keep them honest there in that regard too. But I think it just comes down to execution. Really, that's kind of what Nick Sheridan has said when they asked about the slow starts at Tennessee and Vanderbilt. He kind of just said, it comes down to you just got to play better. You got to get your assignments right. And so I think that's when you look at a guy like, Elijah Pritchett, that's kind of what you're looking for in that regard.
You mentioned LSU a couple of minutes ago talking about the defensive side of the football. We have a individual on every Tuesday. I love him. He loves to, he's a fair analyst from an LSU perspective, but he talks SEC football with us as well. he's been talking about this LSU secondary. And if you look at the secondary, there's some money, as Nick Saban used to teach us, there's some money to be made in that LSU secondary. I mean, currently they're 12th out of the SEC. Only Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and Arkansas is worse than LSU at defending the pass. So Jalen Milroe, if he can get synced up with those wide receivers, there's some money to be made against that LSU secondary.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's just going to come down to, is he going to have the time to make those decisions? I think that's one of the things that, that LSU can kind of, compensate for their secondary by getting to the passer and making and rushing him into things. But like, if Jalen has enough time to maybe, extend plays and or maybe just stay in the pocket if he could get good protection, I think that's something, that they could really hurt LSU, especially, if you are going to have to drop people down to maybe, guard against the run, guard against Jalen's running, scrambling ability. And I think one of the things too in that situation is maybe just staying out of the 3rd and 8. If you can get, a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 3, all of a sudden, you have so many more capabilities, and you can maybe take some chances and really hit that secondary deep and just kind of make those big plays that Alabama's been so good at. But if you're going to get stuffed on 1st and 2nd down, and you're going to have these 3rd and longs, I think maybe they can send some blitzers, some pass rushers, and maybe kind of negate some of the struggles that they might have in the secondary just by, rushing and getting Jalen into, tough situations, which he has struggled at times with. So I think, a lot of it is just kind of almost like a team effort of everything's got to be clicking. And if it is, I think there are those avenues in this game where you can really take advantage. And then, like you said, that secondary is probably one of them.
You think they get the job done? You think they beat LSU on the road?
I think they do, and I just think it comes down to game planning. There's something about that Georgia game that just makes me so confident in terms of, I just think, Kalen DeBoer is going to draw something up. When you give a guy like that, such a master game planner, an extra week against the defense that I think is, look, if you could do it against Georgia, I think you can do it against LSU. And I've talked about how this LSU defense is decent in some areas, but I think that, Alabama has the weapons to hurt it. And I just, between that and between Alabama just playing with its backs against the wall, I kind of like their chances, but it wouldn't surprise me either way. I don't think LSU is going to be a pushover, and it's like you don't know if these problems are fixed, because I thought things were a lot better shape heading into Tennessee, and they weren't, and so that's going to be a tough place to play too, Ryan. You can't underestimate that. So it's going to be tough, but. The things I look at is you saw what Jalen did against LSU last year. I know it's a whole different team. You can't just rely on last year's stats. I look at that, though, and I look at Kalen DeBoer's ability to draw up a game plan, and I just think that Alabama is going to be able to hit LSU in a couple of ways. And then this defense, Ken Womack kind of talked about Garrett Nussmeier being a gunslinger, and as good of a quarterback as he is, and Ken Womack did give him credit for that. He is a guy that, as we saw in the Texas A&M game, can make mistakes. So, if you look at that, Alabama gets a few turnovers, maybe can get, a double-digit advantage, really kind of get LSU on the ropes, and I think that's where they can kind of maybe, step in the neck a little bit and, kind of come away from Tiger Stadium with a win. They're gonna have to start fast. I don't like Alabama's chances if they get down, if LSU builds like a 10-point lead and they have to come back on the road. I don't like that. But if Alabama can get off to a good start and kind of hit LSU in the mouth at first, I kind of think that, it could be maybe not the tail off of the Georgia game, but I think you could have a lot of those elements where you just continuously hit a team in the mouth and you can kind of jump ahead early and then be able to put them away.
Right now, we're talking with Tony Tsoukalas. It's Tide Illustrated. It's Rivals network of websites. It's alabama.rivals.com. You can also connect with Tony on the Twitter account. Find him at Tony_Tsoukalas right now. And, Tony, I want to go back to Tony's take because it kind of talks about the college football playoff. when it's all said and done tomorrow evening, you think this Alabama football team is in that top 10? Because I think that's where you've got them at.
Yeah. Look, they're what, 11 now?
They are.
I think when you look at it, the committee seems to like the quality wins, and Alabama has the best win out of anyone. So I'm interested to see how the committee plays that. I just think if Alabama goes 10-2, they're in the playoff. That's the most important thing. I don't really think it matters where they are in the playoff rankings at the moment. Yeah, I'm assuming that they're going to be in the top 12. I've always said that I wouldn't be shocked if the committee has them higher than the AP, because I think Alabama was, knocked for that Vanderbilt loss and the Tennessee loss, but those don't look as bad. If you're just going on analytics and paper and stuff, and you're really breaking down everything, those don't look as bad of losses as maybe Alabama got punished for. And then if you look at the wins Alabama has, or the win over Georgia, at least, I think that's going to be big. I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama was like a couple spots higher, but I don't really know what the committee does. I mean, sometimes it just feels like a television show, and they change the goalpost every single week. But I wouldn't be shocked if Alabama was, like I said, a couple spots higher. But it doesn't really matter as long as they, win out and take care of their business. I can't see a world where they're not in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, you just answered the question. I was about to ask you that. You just answered it. I think I agree. I think the help they got this weekend kind of sets it up that way. If they can win out, try to find a way to get in this playoff, and I think that would be a year number one, a good season under Kalen DeBoer. And who knows, when they got there, and maybe they could hit a switch and win a couple of games, and I never know exactly what this team is capable of. Hey, you also wrote a basketball. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will say, I'm kind of assuming that Georgia's going to win out too. I mean, it could get a little bit muddier, Ryan, if Georgia was to lose. But I think the beauty of that too, for Alabama's sake, is if Georgia loses, you would think that you would have to drop Georgia a lot. And then if it's a 2-loss team and they played each other, then maybe Alabama would even have that, tiebreaker over Georgia. We'd have to see, right? But it could get interesting. I think as an Alabama fan, you're rooting for Georgia here on out. I think you want Georgia to get the number 1 overall seed. You want them to win the SEC. You want them to do all that, which is kind of hard, I know, for Alabama fans. But I think that's probably Alabama's best thing. And as long as that happens and Alabama wins, you're going to have the best win. And
I want to ask
go
ahead. I'm sorry there. Want to ask you about basketball.
That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, my apologies. I didn't mean to cut you off there. That was on my end. But let me ask you about the Alabama basketball team. There is so much excitement. Alabama gets started with their opening season coming up later this evening. We're going to have the call here at 8 o'clock with Chris and Brian. When you watch this Alabama basketball team, just seems like, you and I have been around this program for a long time, but I can't ever remember us spending so much time talking about basketball right in the middle of football season. And people want to talk about it because this team is going to be one of the best teams in the country.
I think it's the most talented team. I won't say the best because you have to actually do it on the court, but I think it's the most talented team Alabama's ever had. And so there's a huge expectation, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how NATO kind of manages this team and how he's able to manage these minutes. It sounds like this group of guys really loves each other and that they're a humble bunch, but college basketball is a weird thing. And, I'm just kind of interested to see how Alabama kind of manages itself. Look, they're going to be favored in pretty much every game they play. They're going to have more talent in every game they play. Are they going to be able to, avoid complacency, avoid selfishness, do, what they have to do, play up to their potential, but also just play into their roles. Not, there's going to be, times where not everyone can be the star of these games. And you have a lot of these players that, probably feel like stars right now, and they're going to have to be humble. I have full, confidence that this bunch will be humble. You look at guys like Mark Sears has been that in the past. Grant Nelson's been that in the past. But I think it's going to be a lot of pride is going to have to be kind of swallowed on this team to live up to its potential. And I expect it to do that the good thing about that is that's pretty easy to do, or at least easier to do, right, when you're winning. And I think this Alabama team is going to win a lot. I just, like I said, it's got so much talent. I think, not only in terms of just the starting five, but I think you're going to wear teams out because, when other teams kind of have to make their subs, you're going to be just as strong. And I think, you're going to see, maybe, midway through the first half, Alabama just pulls away because other teams are having to take out some of their starters to give them a breather, and Alabama just continues to operate at the same level. So I'm interested to kind of see it all play. It'll be fun to actually watch them in a game that matters. But they look good in their two exhibition games, and so I'm pretty excited just to see the product that's going to be on the court.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an example, this UNC team is a pretty talented basketball team, or at least that's the expectations. Alabama's a 27.5-point favorite against UNC Asheville.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't know. Do people bet on basketball like that? I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I was just looking at the line because I wanted to see exactly. But a lot of expectations with this number two ranked basketball team. So 27.5. Maybe take Alabama in this one, right? Because I think I kind of feel like Nadeau's going to want to make a statement tonight. And, he's one of those guys that doesn't mind running up the score, and he's got the best team he's ever had. And I think he's going to want to showcase it a lot. And you got to think, Ryan. I mean, everyone's going to be wanting to prove themselves for those minutes in these early games. It's almost like Alabama's kind of competing against itself. So the score, a lot of times, these guys might be playing really hard just to prove themselves. Hey, Tony, take a couple of minutes right here and promote Tide Illustrated, and we'll let you get out of here.
Sure. Yeah, this is, like you said, the site's Tide Illustrated or alabama.rivals.com. We've got everything. We've got basketball coverage. We've got football coverage. We've got recruiting coverage. Check us out. You can follow us at Tide Illustrated on X, or you can follow me at Tony_Sukalis on X as well.
Tony, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Tony Sukalis helping us out there. Rivals.com. Title playing this song. I mean, we kicked Leonard Skinner to the curb. Nate Oates on the air told us that Toby Mac was his favorite group. And ever since then, we've been playing Toby Mac at 4 o'clock. We play Toby Mac at 4 o'clock. We play Kalen DeBoer's favorite group, even though he is not as committed to that favorite group. He says he has a lot of favorite groups. And I've talked with him off the air multiple times. I can't squeeze it out of him. I'm not going to ask. I did it a couple of interviews. I've tried to slip it in there sideways. So we're going to stick with Journey until somebody decides that we're going to break into his playlist and we'll find his music. But so we do Journey at 3, and then Nate Oates told me that Toby Mac, no doubt. We did a speaking engagement a couple of weeks ago in the University Church of Christ and the Pigskin Kickoff. It was a lot of fun, and we even talked about this. They were sitting at the table for a couple of minutes. But Toby Mac today has finally arrived that Alabama basketball gets started, and UNC Asheville comes to town. It is Coleman Coliseum. Tickets are plentiful, and they're super low. And I made a comment here, and I wasn't joking. I've got a couple of extra tickets. So if you know of anybody that would like to be able to take me up on the offer, I'm not selling them. I'm giving them to you if you'll say that I will go and support Alabama basketball. So if you're willing to do that, let me know, and I'll connect you, and I'll transfer the tickets mobily to you, and you can go enjoy the evening, courtesy of RyanFowler.com, even though there is not a RyanFowler.com, but it's my personal tickets. I'll give them to you. UNC Asheville against the University of Alabama, 27.5-point underdog. We are always powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota. TuscaloosaToyota.com, 3325 Scotland Boulevard, and online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. Always some great specials, including we are continuing the 1.99 APR on the 2024 Tundra. We've got a lot of those in stock. Matter of fact, there's 48 new Toyota Tundras, either that are currently on that lot or in transit to Tuscaloosa. It is Tuscaloosa Toyota, TuscaloosaToyota.com, 3325 Scotland Boulevard, and online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. Let's go to Martin Houston right here. He leads us out of the gate. He was a starting fullback and the second leading rusher back in 1992 Martin Houston, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
All is well except for Aloe Black, and I'm the man, but I'm okay, Ron. I've
okay. Well, Jackson, I mean, you sound like Bama Nick. Bama Nick always wants us to play this group that he plays.
Hey,
so, Martin Houston.
Hold on. You're making it sound like I changed, Ron. I didn't change. You one-up me for NATO. That's what you did.
Well, I mean, we could always move it to 4:15, and then we could play the I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Jackson, will you give him the music? I mean, give him the music just a little bit if you can, please.
I'm the regular guest, Ron.
Well, you can tell everybody.
Oh, look here.
You can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man.
All right. See, that's...
Every lie that I ever told.
Woo! You know what it actually does, Martin. When we play young people's music, it keeps us young, man. It keeps us young. We have a way to relate to them, and
What's up, man?
I'm good. We got a lot of things on our plate, man. A lot of things on our mind. Coming out of the bye week. You know, Coach Stallings, your coach, used to say sometimes bye weeks are not good because it gives you too much time to think. But from an Alabama case where this team is young and kind of beat up, I like this bye week. It came at the perfect opportunity to get this team back on a healthy standpoint.
I would agree with that, Ryan, that the timing is right for several reasons. One is you had one early in the season and you saw the effect of being able to go back and really look at film and look at yourself, self-evaluate versus just getting ready for the next week. And that's the difference. You don't really think about it when you're watching film, Ryan. A lot of times you're looking at the film and you see what the mistakes you made, but you don't really get to correct them as just a mistake. You correct them as you're putting in the next week's game plan, right? And so, say Jalen Milroe is struggling with something, instead of just correcting that, you're trying to correct it while trying to put in the next week's game plan. Go back and look at how well Jalen Milroe has responded in his two bye weeks as a starting quarterback. LSU and Georgia. And I point out he had 75% completion rate, almost 600 yards passing, almost 300 yards rushing. In those two games, he got about 800 yards, so 700 and some yards. So it's huge, and just multiply that to the entire team. And that's not even counting the refreshing part of getting your leg back under you and getting nagging injuries. Like, you can play injured, but you're not 100% in a week off, and that all of that kind of accumulate and go for a better performance.
Martin, when I look at LSU from a numbers standpoint, there is nobody in the Southeastern Conference that rushes the football as poorly as the LSU Bengal Tigers. They are the only team in the SEC that has yet to rush for 1,000 yards. When you look at yards per carry, they're one of the worst in the league. Yards per game, they are literally almost a one-dimensional offense. Their quarterback is not very mobile. How do you think that sets up against this Alabama defense? Now, sacks allowed from an offensive standpoint, they protect the quarterback. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country in protecting the quarterback, and he doesn't move a lot. He doesn't get out of the pocket. What do you think this sets up for Alabama's defense going up against what I'm going to call a one-dimensional offense?
To me, if you think back to the Georgia game, we really didn't think about how little Georgia was running the ball, right? And I would say Carson Beck is a little bit more mobile, or maybe a lot more mobile than Nussmeier. So I would have a similar game plan to that. it's not always whether you sack the quarterback. It's whether you can hurry him and cause him to throw off script. And that's what A&M did to him. That's what we did to Beck. And I think other teams have shown that you can do that to Beck consistently. And I think we'll find that we could do the same thing to Nussmeier. So I would say we have to do what Womack doesn't like to do, Ryan, and that is blitz with some exotic packages and get off script, whether we sack him or not, make him get rid of the ball faster than he wants to. And if they don't run the ball a lot, just have the blitz where it's, like a run blitz where you're playing the run on the way to the quarterback.
Martin, there's so many different things that I want to ask you about Baton Rouge, but I believe you were a part of 2 or 3 different teams that won in Baton Rouge. Were you not?
I think I may have been part of 3, Ryan.
Was it 3? Was it 3? Well, we never lost. That was during that 30-year run.
If you go back and look, it was weird because I think we played them back-to-back years because of the changing of the SEC schedule and bringing in the teams. I think I may have played them. I can't remember. I think I may have played down there 2 or 3 times.
Well, we know that you won because you were part of that streak. But I was going to ask you.
Yeah, 89. I played in 89 when we won the SEC, of course. And then did we play them in 92 down there? I can't always remember what year it was we played them.
We've lost to them 6 times in 60 years down there,
which is crazy.
That blows my mind. It literally blows. 6 times in 60 years. We've only lost down there 10 times in Baton Rouge. And I'm talking about, and this will be the 89th time that we've played LSU. Wow.
That is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And, I was telling someone the other day, I said, you have to think about this. From the time I was born until Nick Saban was LSU's head coach, we didn't lose down there.
Wow. It's just an odd series. But does that give you anything as a player, knowing that, there's not a streak on the line, but it's a place where, it's not very friendly. They hate you. But this Alabama football team's had a lot of success. 2 years ago, they lost down there. Maybe that's what this team remembers, and maybe they'll go back with a little bit of revenge on their mind. But does that play into it? Or why do you think that is? I know LSU was kind of in the dumps a lot of those years, but why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's about what gets teams going. We love playing on the road. The fans do play a role, meaning the Alabama fans that travel. We used to love playing up in Knoxville, too, because there was nothing sweeter, Ryan, than hearing the chaos at the beginning of the game. And then hearing just those faint roll tides when you have that small percentage of fans there. But I think that the reality of what it does, Ryan, is it's not just what it does to us, meaning Alabama. I think it's what it does to LSU. They know that streak. And what did we say? When did Nick Saban used to beat people when he first got here until Clemson beat us? When we got off the bus, right?
He did. The intimidation factor.
He beat you when you got off the bus. And if nothing happened early that made you think, you just said, well, here we go again. And it's the same way in that stadium, I think. When Alabama starts playing, I think the LSU players in the back of their minds go, man, we're genius. It's almost like the same voodoo that happens at Auburn is if something can go wrong, it starts going wrong at Auburn, and it's like our Alabama players can't get out of it. So it's weird.
You know, it is. I mean, it's one of those things. All right, so let's go to the college football playoffs. When you look at the college football playoffs, tomorrow, the initial rankings. Now, most of us are not going to be watching the college football playoff release, okay? We're not going to be. There'll be a lot of other things that'll be on our mind. It's probably not going to be on the college football playoffs. But Alabama is in a position, if they win out with all the help they got this weekend, you got to feel pretty comfortable about this football team that they would be in the college football playoffs.
I do. I think if Alabama wins out, I think they'll be in, Ryan. I think there's still a lot of chaos to happen in front of Alabama and to some of the teams that are behind Alabama that would have an argument. Now, the chaos could happen to Alabama as well, Ryan. I was talking about it on my show this morning. If Texas A&M wins out, and Texas beats everybody except for A&M, they're going to be both 10-2. If Georgia beats Tennessee and then Tennessee wins out, they're 10-2. If Tennessee doesn't win out and Vanderbilt wins out, they're 9-3, but same record as us in the SEC. I mean, let that sink in for a second. I mean, the craziness of what could happen. Texas wouldn't really have a good win. If Ole Miss were to get on the right track and beat Georgia, right, this weekend after they had a great game, and with the way Georgia's playing offensively, that's a real possibility. They beat 10-2, and then now you have all of these. Well, we beat them, but they beat them, and he beat them, and she beat her, and so I think though that it'll all work itself out. If Bama wins, I think the brand and all of that stuff gets them in.
Martin, there's a lot of scriptures in the Bible that talks about thou shalt not tempt thy brother. Brett Garner is not participating in that. He's not, okay? I mean, he's tempting two people that struggle with bread pudding, and he does it every week. I mean, literally like 5 minutes before you go on, he sends us photos of this white chocolate peach bread pudding. I mean, can you preach on temptation just for a couple of minutes here?
Oh, well, I'm looking at it right now, so I'm having a hard time. Ryan, I hate to tell you, I'm falling. I actually have a meeting tonight, and they're ordering from Southern Ale House. I'm about to send them this and tell them to add this to the order.
Yes. And I know because Doc called me this morning asking me for a contact at Southern Ale House. They're doing some catering for you guys. I know you guys got a very special prayer ceremony, and Doc's been the bread pudding healing first, and then bread pudding coming up second.
I'm sending them a picture right now as we're having this conversation. I don't want to slip my mind.
All right. Well, Martin, I want to ask you on a serious note. I usually do this in a lot of different situations, whether it's COVID or our struggles of our country. But as you know, tomorrow's a very important day. What did you say from the pulpit? I'm not asking you to endorse a candidate. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But what do you say going into an election day from a pastor that, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be happy tomorrow evening. There's probably going to be a lot of people that are going to be sad. What do you say on the convictions of participating in our election? And, it's our role as Christians to vote for whoever we think that can do the best job and protect some of the moral principles that we have that the Bible has called upon us to protect.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share that. I actually started a sermon series called The 7 Mountains of Influence in Our Culture. And, it's church, family, education, government, arts and entertainment, media, and business. And I spent 2 weeks on government. I explained to them how I vote, how I choose to vote, is I tell them I have some non-negotiables. First of all, I pray. and ask for God to lead me, guide me, give me wisdom. And then I tell them that I have some non-negotiables that I weigh candidates against. And I'm not a big fan of either candidate by their personality and character. And unfortunately, if we were voting based on just character of candidates, we probably haven't had a good one in a long, long time. But these two definitely don't meet that criteria, in my opinion. And I may not be that character guy either. So I'm not dogging them. I'm just making a point that when people start trying to make one character great versus another, they both lose in that battle. So what are your core convictions and your non-negotiables? And I have some, and I can tell you that my non-negotiables, Ryan, come down to what are the things that I can do that one party, not non-negotiables. After I've got my non-negotiables, I figure out which candidate, violates them or supports them, or which party violates or supports. Boom. Once I do that, then I take other issues, Ryan, and go, okay, if I vote for this, what about all the other issues that's facing me and other people? Can I do something about them on my own, through hard work, through partnership, through teamwork, through getting out and getting involved? And if I do, that candidate that violates my core convictions falls even further down my list. And so, there's a lot of people who say, Jesus for Trump and, Jesus for Kamala and all this stuff. And the reality of it is neither one of these parties are Christians. And both of them have aspects of the gospel, okay, that they do a better job on. The abortion issue is one that the Republican Party seems to lean better on, right? And I'm just telling you what I'm telling my congregation. We lean better on. And then the social gospel is what I call it. There's a moral gospel, which begins to incorporate, abortion and gender and all of those things. And then there's the social gospel, which tends to lean more toward take care of your fellow man, help the immigrants without violation, without consideration for the border, feed the hungry, and all those things. And to me, the reason I taught this about the church was I look at all of those issues and say the church should be the one fighting against abortion. The church should be the one feeding the hungry. The church should be the one, doing all of those things. And then the government should be emphasizing the safety of our border. The government should be emphasizing taxes and economy and all of those. So when I get to that point, my choice is pretty easy. And I told them that they need to go out and vote, that God established government. God established government, and that if we as Christians did what we're supposed to, and I know there's a lot of people, we're not a Christian nation, and what they call people who say Christians should be in government, Christian nationalists. I don't even know what that means, but my Bible tells me, let your light shine. Whatever you do, do as unto the Lord. Let your light shine before men so they'll glorify your Father in heaven. So if I'm a Christian and I'm in government, then I'm supposed to be speaking my faith. I shouldn't set it aside. The Bible tells us that we should speak up for those who don't have a voice. And that's, of course, when abortion comes in, because the silence of a baby in the womb, whether you believe it is a baby or not, it has a separate DNA, and it also has the ability to be a crime if you commit murder to a pregnant mom. So in some ways, you agree with me even when you're pro-abortion. So anyway, those are the things that I talk to, and then I land on us as Christians. We're supposed to pray for whoever gets in because it says God establishes the government, right? So whoever gets in, we're still supposed to pray. And maybe if we would pray for whoever gets in, if we had spent the last 4 years praying for Biden and Kamala, she may have gotten saved, and we would be looking at her differently. Or or she may be more faith-based focused in what we like or whatever. And then last but not least, he says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and they repent, the church repent, and he'll heal our land. So I'm going to go with God. And of course, I do have some very strong political opinions.
We won't go there. We won't go there. But I want to ask you.
I don't want you. You asked me what I tell my church, and I gave you probably weeks of 2 hours of teaching, and so I'm sure I skipped some things, and you may have calls, and I may have calls and questions. But
hey, listen, if people want to go back and watch your video, you archive it on your Martin Houston account. So you can go to Facebook, go to Martin Houston, which he does his show there, but he also archives his sermons as well from Harvest Church, which he is the senior pastor at here in Tuscaloosa County on Highway 82. If you're looking for a church home, right there in Coker, Alabama. Martin Houston, I appreciate you. Tell me what's coming up in December. I know you got some special things planned for us, and then I'm going to get you out of here.
Actually, Ron, I moved it to February just because of holidays and a couple other things coming up. So I moved my Live to Lead leadership event to February 20th, National Leadership Day, the kickoff 2025. So they can, go to martinhouston.org and look at the tab Live to Lead, and they can find out what's going on there. And then I would say, man, if you're out there and you're a business owner and you're looking to help your team reach maximum potential, then I can help you do that. I am a business coach and a leader and a trainer, and I can come in and work one-on-one or with a group of leaders. That's my background, even though I've worked in other areas. And then if you're looking for just somebody to come in and do a pep talk, kick off a great time culture change, I can help you with that as well. So if you want to be the best at what you do, you need to hire a coach who can help you get there. And that's me. Go to martinhouston.org and let me know how I can help you.
It's Martin Houston who leads us out every morning right here at 6 a.m. on Tide 100.9. Hey, Martin, I appreciate you. I hope you have a great week. Thank you again for being a part of our show.
Appreciate you. Roll Tide and go vote.
Roll Tide, go vote. Let's continue with more of the game. We're going to go right back to phone calls. Robert in Mobile, Connor, Bubba, and many others. 205-342-9904. We have a clear path all the way until 6 o'clock. We'll take your phone calls. We're doing the good, really no bad and ugly, unless you want to talk about the Auburn football team. The good moments are sponsored by DanielMooreArt.com, DanielMooreArt.com. Celebrate those special moments of life, that Alabama fan in your life. It is available at Daniel. 45 postseason victories. Nobody has more. I mean, it's simple, right? When you look at the University of Alabama, most of these credentials that I'm reading off, other than All-Americans, Alabama has more postseason games than anybody. Alabama has more postseason victories than anybody. And Alabama has more SEC titles than anybody. 18 national titles. Alabama plays in Baton Rouge. 6:49 coming up this coming Saturday. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Holly Rowe, ESPN College Game Day also will make the appearance. And Alabama has got a really good record when College Game Day shows up. Alabama and LSU will meet for the 89th time in history. Well, these two teams squaring off. Alabama is the favorite, and according to many of the experts, projected to win this game. But it's all got to be played on the field. Alabama with a winning streak of 1, and that was last year, 42-28. Inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, but Alabama heads to a place that's been very successful. Alabama's only loss out of 41 games. Alabama's only lost 10 times in Baton Rouge. LSU has actually beaten us more in Tuscaloosa than they've beaten us in Baton Rouge. They have 17 wins in Tuscaloosa. They still don't have the advantage, but when you look at winnings here in Tuscaloosa, they've got 17 wins in Tuscaloosa and only 10 against the University of Alabama. Alabama leads at their place 29-10-2. 29-10-2. One of those ties was 1984 and a 14-14 tie, but a 30-year streak. They beat us 6 times in 60 years. Let that sink in. Ooh, man. We are always powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota, TuscaloosaToyota.com. How about a new Tundra? How about a 4Runner? How about a Camry? How about a Corolla? How about a RAV4? It is Tuscaloosa Toyota, TuscaloosaToyota.com. And we are also hiring sales professionals, a very competitive pay. If you're looking to become a part of our winning team with a 401k option, Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, and also paid vacation, paid training, it is Tuscaloosa Toyota. Be a part of our winning team as we continue right here on The Game. Let's take your phone calls right here, and let's talk about it right here in Tuscaloosa. We go to Tony in T-Town. Tony, good afternoon. You're in The Game. I hope all is well.
I'm very nervous.
As you should be.
You know, and because we can no longer trust our government. And they lie to us every day, whether it's job numbers, whether it's what they call misinformation, which is just simply anti-propaganda, whether it's whatever they want to do. Now, you know, our government, the president of this country, allegedly, called the majority of the people in this country garbage. And if I can take a moment, Ron.
You can.
I don't want to talk football. I can't talk football. This has been the hardest year for me to keep up with football, to be an Alabama fan and everything, because this day has been looming on the calendar. And I know what's coming, and it's not good for anyone, no matter the winner. We've got one man who really is in charge of saving the free world. And then we've got a criminal cartel of Democrats and Republicans that are trying to turn the world. The final straw. Totally Marxist. And everything they did. Going through. And I'm fortunate enough that in 1984, I turned 18 years old in October, late October. In early November, I made my first vote ever for Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
And it was his second term. And we were coming off a country in total disarray. Now, stop me if you haven't heard this before. The media hated the country. The government hated the country. The CIA hated freedom. They killed a president to stop freedom because he was anti-war. Lyndon B. Johnson, Democrat, reluctantly passed the Civil Rights Bill. Just basically saying black people were the same as white people. The Democrats have always been the party of slavery. They've always been the party of segregation. Governor Wallace stood right down the street from where I live and stopped a beautiful young black girl from attending the University of Alabama. Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Abe Lincoln was a Republican. And I just want those that are confused, because history has been erased, to understand this. When Ronald Reagan originally ran for president in 1980, he was following who I believe still tied with Biden as absolutely the worst president I've ever had to have the unfortunate experience of living through. Double-digit interest rates, inflation, anti-America, nationalism was a bad thing. Heard any of this before? Experienced any of this before? This is in 1976. President Nixon, who was set up by the CIA, we know that, on basically a misdemeanor crime, broken by the press who hated the thing. You know why they wanted him gone? He was anti-war. He ended the Vietnam War. Kind of like how a president ended the war in Afghanistan. And then after he ended that war, they ran him out and they brought a freaking woke whack job, Jimmy Carter, in to dismantle the country. And what does he do? While Iran goes through an overthrow of their government, probably the CIA led it. That's generally who has most governments overthrown. They allow American citizens to be kidnapped for over a year, maybe 2 years. And what was the defining moment of Jimmy Carter's pathetic anti-America dismantling presidency? A botched attempt by Marines and helicopters to rescue them, which I don't believe there ever was an attempt. And why did a country that most people had never even heard of, Iran, why were they outsmarting us and outdoing our military when they didn't even have a military? Is because our government was working against us, kind of like the exit in Afghanistan. They wanted to demoralize the American people. And Ronald Reagan ran on a platform of nationalism is a beautiful thing. Like, make America great again. Make America great again for all Americans, no matter.
And in 1984, I just looked it up. I mean, Electoral College. I mean, I was several years old. I was born in
biggest
78.
blowout of all time.
Yeah, 525 electoral votes. Reagan lost one state.
The biggest blowout of all
No, he didn't. No, he lost the District of Columbia and he lost Minnesota. That's it.
There you go. And nothing's changed in either one of those hellholes. Tim Walz comes from Minnesota. Think about it.
Oh,
now this is
man.
Reagan
Scary.
went after communism head on. In Russia, he decided to do kind of like what China is doing with us right now, a Cold War. And he decided that what we were going to do was we were going to take our nationalism and we were going to take American ingenuity and we were going to beat the living daylights out of them. Because I lived in a world in which Germany was split in two. Are you old enough to remember that?
Yeah, but I mean, I was very young. I didn't really understand a lot of the political.
At the end of World War II, those that were of the free world versus those that were communist, they decided to split Germany up. You had West Germany, which was free, and you had East Germany that was communist. East Germany was so bad under Marxism, they had to build a wall to keep the people from leaving. You'd watch the Olympics, and they cheated even then. Steroids, men dressed as women. Have you ever heard that before? Men dressed as women, pretending to be women in Olympic sports? There's nothing new under the sun, people. And remember this. You vote in Marxism, you must shoot your way out of Marxism. And I want to beg everyone out there, we don't ever want to put ourselves in that position. Our government today, both parties, they believe in government censorship. God gave us the right due to our called inalienable rights in our Bill of Rights, in our Constitution, the greatest document ever written, gives us certain freedoms that no one is supposed to be able to take over. And if they do eliminate your freedom of speech, and they do try to take away your guns and any of those rights in the Bill of Rights, you are demanded in the Second Amendment to say no. And if you must use physical force, you must. We're not using physical force. We are the party of peace. We didn't burn the country down when it didn't go our way. We didn't do any of those things. We showed up to protest an election that was fraudulent, and the CIA once again set our people up. So then our government can say white people that believe in Christ, that love their country, are the biggest domestic threat to it. I'd love some examples of that. But you cannot trust your government. You want less government, never more. We have over 10,000 government employees in Washington, D.C. alone.
Wow.
There's only one person, not a party, because the Republican Party isn't even supporting America First candidates. Carrie Lake's not getting $1. And she's not the only one. But what we've got to do is if you're a Democrat, especially if you're a Democrat, it's been a Democrat for a little while, not these insane clown socialists, there's no way this party represents what you signed up for. There's no way. There's nothing in this party because they're pretending to be far left, and really what they are is the furthest right you can be outside of some little marketing ploys of being woke, DEI, and all these things to separate everyone. It's total insanity. Do you realize 97% of the world believes there's only two genders? Go out and put the boot on the neck of Marxism because they hate you. Your government hates you. Your president told you as much. Vote red. Then we'll figure out who needs to be ousted out of the red, because the Republicans are a little bit better than the Democrats, but not much. They don't love you either. They're all on the same uniparty, but it's time to fumigate them. And let me tell you something. I'm going to preach it again. We are the party of peace. We've always been the party that did not believe in slavery, that have always been the party of the people, not the government. And we believe in peace. And when they try to steal this election, and they try to blame false flags on us, don't buy into it. Don't buy into it, but make your voice heard. And I'll leave with this. God hates cowards. That's all.
Tony, Tuscaloosa. Tony, the pharmacy at Midtown, TJ Thomas. And I was getting a lot of compliments during Tony. I just stepped out of the way. And, you know, a couple of months ago, I think I've shared the story. My mom was a lifelong Democrat. She walked away, and she always used to tell me, I didn't walk away from them. They walked away from me. And I think about that so often because, you know, that party at times stood for a lot of the things that my parents did. Not anymore. Not anymore. It's the party of freaks and people that don't share the same common values as you and I. But hey,
you can't judge people that were Democrats in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s because they believe in a lot of stuff that I believe in. I'm fiscally conservative. I'm socially liberal to a point. You can't have birth of a baby and kill it.
It's one of the most racist things we do in our society.
Where are all the abortion clinics set up?
they're set up in the urban neighborhoods. It doesn't take.
Who established Planned Parenthood?
Well, yeah, it
was
you
the
go
lady,
back.
I can't remember her name, and she was
Margaret
a
Sanger.
big time racist. Yes, big time racist. It didn't have. Look at the Democratic Party when they supposedly changed everything. They had sitting people in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s that were Klan members. Klan members.
Not easy to connect not hard to connect the dots if you're willing to dive a little deeper. And Tony, I've probably got 15 messages from very prominent people listening to your call that just want to say thanks.
Well, I tried to give it with all my heart, and it's what I believe in. And tonight, I think there's going to be like an international night of prayer.
It should be. Should be.
And people, in this whole bull crap of that, the separation of church and state isn't what it's been told to us. Our country used to pray before we went to war. We were asked as a country to pray for war, and we still are supposed to pledge an allegiance to our flag and our republic, not our democracy, our republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. I mean, it says it all, doesn't it?
I mean, Tony, you've hit a home run today, and I appreciate it. I got to get to this break, and I'm about 24 after.
Vote. And
Go
tell your
out.
friends that live in swing states, beg them to vote. And if you know Democrats that have any mind about them, and they're trying to decide, I'm just not going to go vote. No. Democrats vote even when they don't go vote. Vote for America. Vote for freedom.
The Pharmacy at Midtown, TJ Thomas. He's the Nick Saban of pharmacists. He's the Kalen DeBoer of pharmacists. He's the guy that wears his Alabama shirt on every day when you walk in. The Pharmacy at Midtown, TJ Thomas, the only sterile compounding facility here in Tuscaloosa. All the compounding needs, the Pharmacy at Midtown. Tony, have a great rest of your evening. Thank you again.
I hope it helps.
I think it did. I appreciate it. You never know. It could be that one or two deciding votes in some of these swing states. And I appreciate you sharing the message, man. Great one.
God bless.
Thank you. We'll come back. We'll take more of your phone calls right here on The Game. T-Town, Tide 100.9, 1230 WT. Hey, it's Southern House, 1530. Closed today, but they'll be back open tomorrow for dinner, and then also on Wednesday for dinner, and then lunch and dinner on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then also brunch until 4 p.m. at Dockside. The original location on 1530 McFarland Boulevard is open Monday through Saturday, both lunch and dinner options every day. Tomorrow's Burger Day, but if you're looking for great menu items, including that bacon wrap meatloaf is one of our favorites. The chicken tenders is something that I probably don't talk enough about, but they brine those for around 24 hours. You can have those fried or grilled. I like it tossed in North River sauce, one of my favorites. If you're looking for a burger, if you're looking for biscuit sandwiches, if you're looking for that Southern cuisine, eat Southern, be Southern. Southern Ale House, either location, 1530 McFarland Boulevard, the original location, or Dockside, which is a great place to enjoy an evening right there on Lake Tuscaloosa, and make it a part of your day. Either location, it is Southern Ale House, and tomorrow we will do a Southern Ale House score prediction day presented by our good friends right there. So LSU, Alabama. Let's continue. And we go to Marty in Arkansas. Marty, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well.
All is well, Ryan. Doing real good. Hey, I can do that too. Park your car in the backyard. I lived up there. And then I can do a Louisiana accent. Who do that, honey child? Down on the bayou. I got a hound. I went from the bayou to New England, all the way to Maine.
So what part of the bayou did you live on? Yeah, what part of the bayou did you live at?
Did you ever watch where the grasshopper, or whatever that movie's called, where the grass things grow? I grew up right there in Homer, Louisiana, where that movie was made. Right there.
Okay.
On Bayou Black. And we walked to school in shorts with no shoes, but my feet wasn't as dirty as hers. Where the Crawdad scene. I grew up right there where that movie was made at. Everyone thinks it was made in North Carolina, but if you Google it, it's made right there in Homer, Louisiana. It's based out of, they say, South Carolina, but it was Homer, Louisiana. And when I saw it, I told my buddy, I said, that's Homer, Louisiana. He goes, how you know? I said, I grew up right there. Google it. And we walked to school, and then we moved all the way to Maine. It was October 31st. We only had shorts, no shoes, short sleeves, and it had 8 inches of snow on the ground, and we were freezing. All the neighbors come around giving us coats and all that. So it's an experience. But, Ryan, I thought you were going to do a basketball thing tonight. We should win by about 20, I hope.
Well, according to the experts in the desert, we're a 27.5-point favorite against UNC Asheville.
Yeah,
8 o'clock.
But they don't play the game. You got to play the game like they're everybody's favorite. But my friend does that. But we got help this weekend, Ryan, and we still got a shot to finish at number 2 with 2 losses.
Which would be an amazing season when you think about Kalen DeBoer to be able to finish strong, to be able to win.
If he goes 10-2, look at all the first-year coaches that coached after Bear Bryant. And even Bear Bryant's first year.
I mean, from a metric standpoint, he would be the most victories from a first-year head coach in Alabama football history. I mean, if he hit that 10-win number, I don't think there's another coach out there that's hit that 10-win number in his first year.
Not the first year. And then, and everyone, he had, but everybody, he had Saban. Well, it don't matter. They had to learn a new system. We have a new offensive coordinator, never called plays before, and they had to learn how to eat ice cream on Friday and celebrate. And that, so, I mean, it's all new to them, and how to do it at 8 o'clock and going and practice at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's all new. Once they get in grind this year, and then he gets his players in there and his system, is KDR the barn.
And for those that are looking on the television side of things, now we're going to have pregame shows starting at 6, and then we're going to have another pregame show starting at 7. So we'll have 2 hours getting you ready for UNC Asheville. If you're looking for the television version, it'll be on ESPNU. But crank up Tide 100.9 and be a part of it. And
I'll have
ESPN.
to listen to it on radio. I don't got. Ron, you still have your YouTube TV? Or you
I do.
Back?
Let me say this. I do. And
but you don't like it.
There's a lot of things that I like about it. One of the benefits that I think is enjoyable is the 4-screen when you're watching 4 different football games. I have a
I like that too. That's what I've got.
How big the TV is that I have, but I have enough of a TV that I can split it 4 screens and actually watch the play. Right? I mean, because like sometimes the picture-in-picture. It's so small, but the YouTube TV, that may be one of the biggest positives that I like about it. But I missed a couple of my channels on DirecTV. I used to love to watch the History Channel. We don't have DirecTV. YouTube TV doesn't have history.
Channel.
But,
His channel's pretty good. Yeah, History Channel. That was a good history on Mark Houston, but that was a bad time, and Wallace was just being a bad person. When he went to meet his Savior, God gave him his punishment. So I don't worry. I don't worry about stuff like that, because I think at the end everyone has to meet the Savior, and He'll judge them the right way. And then if you treat people right, and that wasn't treating people right, you'll be blessed. So that's all I'm going to say. Because I think I'm not going to say the way I voted, because I think that's why you go behind the curtain and you come out. It's like what he said. You pray, you vote for the person that you think will help you the best, and go from there. That's the way I look at it.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yep. But Ryan, I thought you would do this too. I think we're going tomorrow. I know you said, Ryan, you could use it on your phone and watch the election at the same time because it comes on at 7 o'clock, and all you got to do is look down. And for some reason, when I voted 30 or 40 years ago, it was over by 11 o'clock. As soon as California come in, they knew who won. Now it's going to be 3. I don't see how you say polls close at 7:30 and they still open at 10:30 at night. And, we don't got our results in yet. And they've been closed for 3 hours. And technology is 100% better. That's what I don't understand. But that's a different story about this is turning into a political. I'm glad Tuesday be over with. Maybe we won't talk too much more politics because the last 3 or 4 weeks it's turned into a political radio show instead of sports. But I think we'll be at number 11, Ryan. I really do, with everything that happened.
And that is going
Tomorrow
to be
we'll be at number 11. And then all we got to do is, and then all we got to do is win out.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You don't think so?
No,
you don't think so?
I'm looking at it. I think they may be in the top 10. I think when you look at the college football metrics, Alabama's
you know about metrics. I don't get in. I did that Sunday while I was watching a bad football game and that. So, okay, thanks.
Okay.
Hey, I got to go. I left the water running. It's running on my friends.
Okay.
And everything. Right. I'm sorry. Hey,
no problem.
Okay. But one thing, too, is like you said, strength of schedule will help us out too.
Yep. Yes, it is.
All right, Ryan. Hey, have a good day.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate that. Let's continue. Let's go to Pat in Tuscaloosa. Pat, good afternoon. You're in the game. Hey, Pat. Okay. I can't hear Pat. If Pat can hear me, let's try Robert in Brookwood. Robert, good afternoon. You're in the game. Okay. That's kind of odd. Jackson, talk to me. Is that Hey, Pat, good afternoon. You're in the game. Yeah, I hope all is well.
I got you. Hey, I just looked at orange juice. Orange juice has gone from 128 ounces in a gallon. They just went to a new jug. It's 96 ounces now. Is that not incredible? 2 quarts and 25 ounces now in a gallon of orange juice. In the morning at 7 o'clock, I'm going to vote against Kamala Harris or Kamala, whatever crap her name is. Hey, this is friggin' ridiculous, Ryan Fowler. There ain't even 128 ounces in a gallon anymore. What's this country coming to? Hey, this is their fault. Anybody that's in office, it's their fault. Anybody that's in office, go vote against them tomorrow morning, please. I mean, good God. At 196 ounces.
How much orange juice do you go through, Pat?
Hey, I'm saying that jug is now $6.68. It was, and it's dropped down from 128 ounces to 96 is what I'm talking about. They were $8.25 last week for a gallon of orange juice. Now they dropped the size of it down and still makes it over almost $10. If you pay for it by the ounce, you buy what I'm saying. You know, it's just unreal. Hey, but let's talk about what we're going to do Saturday in Baton Rouge. Hey, Saturday night, they're going to have all day long to get drunk, Ryan Fowler, because they're going to have that much time to build up courage to walk into that stadium. You hear what I'm saying?
Okay.
Do you believe me?
Well, I mean, listen, I think Alabama can go down and play. I just want to see that, you know, this Alabama football team put it all together for 4 quarters. You know, I was talking about this on another show. I do several interviews prior to this show, and one of the shows was talking about what does Alabama need to do. I said, well, just play a cleaner game. I mean, Alabama's one of the most penalized teams in the country when you look at penalty yards per game. I think Alabama's, let me make sure. Yeah, they're 128th in the country. What if you can cut those in half?
Yeah. That hey, we got to go down there in order to win this game. We got to go down there, and our penalty yards has got to be less than 50 penalty yards. 50 penalty yards, and we win this game by 2 scores. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It'd be nice. I'll take that. There's a reason why Alabama's...
We've been averaging about, 85 yards or better per game in penalties?
Penalty yards is actually 79.1 yards per game.
Okay.
We average
so
around 8.6 penalties per game.
Okay. If we can drop that down to 50 yards or less, that almost is probably four or so first downs, maybe even though that's only 25 yards in penalties, that's probably 3 or 4 first downs that we don't get. That making the difference in drives or touchdown drives. So,
yeah.
But do you get what I'm saying about shrinkflation, Ryan? Shrinkflation is just as bad as inflation. Mayonnaise is going from a quart being 32 ounces down to 30 ounces, Ryan. So, 2 sandwiches is going from now and evermore. You'll never see them again.
Well, many of these prices are not. Yeah, many of these prices are not going to come down. I mean, you can adjust inflation, and we can bring that number down, and that'll help. I hope some of the marketing, folks that are in this, what do they call it, shrinkflation? Maybe we can find a way. But
that's just what I explained to you about that gallon of orange juice going from 128 down to 96, and they're still selling it for almost $7. It is $7 with the tax. Because they people were balking at $8.25. People were balking because $8.25 made it cost over $9 a gallon with the tax, and people weren't buying. And they said, "Well, we can get them." And they're doing it to us on the sizes of the chicken strips or whatever we're buying. They're getting a price where it's under $10 a bag. You got no idea. You're just grabbing a bag, and where that you're paying. Hey, man, this is what was ham up on in the sandwich ham. In the sandwich ham, you're paying right at $8.50 a pound for it. Buying it in the little packages up there, or you can go buy a big package of Virginia ham for $5.50 a pound.
I got you, Pat. Listen, we've all been to the grocery store. I mean, we see it. I mean, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but it's I mean, anybody that goes to the grocery store, you see it. So I appreciate you getting us caught up today.
Anybody that can't see this and tomorrow morning gets up early and goes and votes against what crap's in office, hey, if they don't vote against what's in office, they deserve what they get. And the trouble is that all of us, the just and unjust, going to suffer under the same sun, right? Have a blessed one, my buddy. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Pat. We appreciate that right here on The Game. Let's continue. Let me tell you about The Standard, Bama.com, home of the 20-inch pizza pie, pepperoni, meat lovers, cheese. Design your own. If you're looking for the wings, boneless wings, they've got those. If you're looking for cheese sticks, mac and cheese bites, you've got those. TheStandardBama.com, home of the 20-inch pizza pie, pepperoni, meat lovers, cheese. Design your own. The Standard Bama, Dunsmark and Lee. 60 different brands of boots. Justin, Tawny Lumber, Red Wing, Georgia, Double H, Timberline, Laredo, and many more. It is the Wharf, the working Western headquarters for the entire family. Let's continue. Let's go to Robert in Brookwood. Robert, good afternoon. Pretty limited here with time, but I'm going to squeeze you in.
Pat must have a lot of time on his hands to come up with figures and numbers, don't he?
He's used that orange juice phrase.
I have never heard orange juice went down 20 ounces.
Hey,
listen, thank you, Pat. I'm not laughing at you, brother. If you listen, it's just amazing to me the figures that he has.
Yeah, no, he's got it. He's got all the.
Well, let's say this. Let's just say this real quick for everybody worried about the election. Wednesday morning, the sun's going to come up. It's going to be a new day. Everything's going to be out either way because God's the one that's in control. And think about this. He already knows who's going to win, so I know who holds tomorrow, and I'll let it in at that.
Ooh, that's good, Robert. Thank you, man.
Real quick, you know what week this is, right? My favorite team, LSU.
LSU Bengal Tigers. You going to tell me how much you love them?
Oh, God. You know what got me disliking LSU many years ago wasn't football. It was their baseball fans. The most overbearing, obnoxious fans I've ever met in my life were baseball fans. And it just got me because I really didn't care for LSU anyway. But, you know, I don't care about the SEC except Vandy. How about Vandy? Go Vandy. That loss don't look so bad now for all those that called in and said we lost to a horrible team. They're not really horrible. They're not a bad team. Should have beat Missouri. Went to overtime and had a kicker that should have won it. I don't know how in the world they lost to Georgia State. I guess the same way we lost to Vandy. But Vandy could very well be sitting at 8-1 right now. But they're not. They're 6-3. But congratulations to them. They got my bowl beard wrapped up.
Yeah, hey, Vanderbilt's playing pretty good football. And, hey, we've enjoyed the Auburn misery, which has been a lot of fun. Hey, Robert, I'm out of time right here, man. I appreciate you
brother.
as always.
God bless. Thank you, brother.
Hey, all right, let's go to Mary. Mary, good afternoon. You're in the game.
Good afternoon, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for calling in.
Doing good. Excited about this weekend. Just confident that our boys can lead us to another victory, and I'm believing that this bye week has given us the time that we needed to, you know, just get things done and hopefully take care of business. So I'm just confident that we can get a good win this weekend.
Hey, that sounds good. Sounds good.
Yep.
Mary, I'm pretty pressed with time. I appreciate you for calling in, and roll tide to you.
Absolutely. Roll Tide. Have a good one.
Roll Tide. Let's go to Jared in Houston, Texas. Jared, final 45 seconds. Let it rip.
What's happening, man?
Good.
Folks, we got to get out and vote tomorrow. If you were unable to vote early absentee in the state of Alabama, I know most people listening are listening in Alabama, but there are people across the country and other parts of the world listening too. But if you have not had the opportunity to early vote, I live in Texas. We voted early. You got to get out and vote because, you know, like Tony said, great call by Tony, by the way. Vote for freedom, vote for God, vote for doing the right thing. And if anything, vote for your dollar because right now it's worth nothing. If we don't win this election, you think it's expensive now to buy eggs? Give it 6 months. You won't be able to find any eggs if you're able to buy any, and they'll be $30 a dozen if you're able to find them. We got to vote. We got to put God first in this country. We got to take our country back. We've got to get it done, guys. You got to get out and vote.
Hey, Jared, I'm out of time, man. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. I want to take a minute. We want to thank our law enforcement officers, EMTs, firefighters, first responders, highway patrol. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with a Southern Ale House score prediction day. I remind you that we call this program The Game, and the only way that you can win a big game, the game of life, is to walk daily with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Good night, T-Town. Alabama pregame show starts in just a few minutes with Hunter Johnson and Wyatt Fulton, and then right into our Crimson Tide Sports Network coverage right here on Tide 100.9, starting at 7 o'clock on Tide 100.9.
You can understand my dream. Yeah, I could be anywhere, and you could be there with me. But I just want to be a ghost when you see everything. I don't want it to be the way they want it. This town, this night, this crowd, come on, put 'em up, let me hear it loud. This town.
Thank you for listening to The Game